Hello, everybody on the internet, and welcome to the DWEM podcast. That's right, DWEM is doing podcasts now. I'm scared too. My name is Jed T.E. Rhodes, and those who have been following DWEM since the beginning might be kind of surprised to see my face here or hear my voice here. I don't know if we're including my face. We better not be including my face because Zoom is being weird with my face. But yeah, so I am here along with co-producers I will let them introduce themselves. I'm not speaking for you guys. You introduce your own damn selves.
Well, no, I don't want to. I'm Iris Prindel, best known for Gormaco stuff, but I'm also here because Doctor.
Yeah.
Because
And
Doctor, yeah.
and I'm Connor Chadwick, and at this stage, you've seen my name in every single thing on this channel. So, yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
You kind of don't need any introduction.
Yeah.
At this stage.
At this point, if anybody watching this doesn't know who you are, I'd have to seriously question, like, is this the first thing on DWEM you've watched? Because if it's the first thing on DWEM you've watched, I'm so sorry. But anyway, so we are not. So I want to preface this whole podcast thing, dear listeners, by saying that we are not, in fact, doing this as a like ongoing monthly, like regular super thing, like has been done on other channels.
No.
Hi, Overton Audios. We're not doing it. We're not doing this as like a super like monthly thing, because
No, it's not got a release schedule of sorts.
no. I would be surprised.
Daily episodes.
No, I would be surprised if we did this more than quarterly, to be honest. This is a limited run podcast to cover what is a very specific period of time in the history of this YouTube channel. In part, to explain how we have reached this period of this YouTube channel, and in part to sort of talk a little bit about what's happening in this period of this YouTube channel's lifespan and how it's gotten to this point, why we're doing it, what we're doing, what's coming out. Normal Doctor Who fan podcasty stuff, right? But also explaining the context of how this channel reached that point. So a lot of what we're going to sort of get at with this channel, with this podcast, is where did we come from? Where did we go? Where did we come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Effectively. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit rambly, a little bit perhaps less structured than those of you familiar with, for example, like Chadders' podcast on the Overton channel. Like it's a little less structured than the Overton Audios podcast, for example.
I'm hoping it's less structured than that, but more focused than whatever the fuck the Gormaco podcast was.
I'm not being funny, Iris. I'm the one talking at the moment. I have the focus of a delinquent goldfish on acid who's just seen an exceptionally shiny ooh. Sorry. So yes, focus may be a stretch goal, but we'll try. So
if we reach 50,000 donations.
Yeah, totally. We don't have a donation system set up. We don't have a Patreon, and I don't know if you guys have like a coffee or a Patreon or whatever. I have a coffee, but no, don't donate. Don't.
I got Juggernog.
I've got Highland Spring, so. But yeah, so to start then, at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. Also, I'm told by The Sound of Music, which is a lovely, lovely movie.
There was a single affinitude.
No, in the beginning, the universe was born. This has been widely criticized, and a lot of people thought this was a very bad idea.
The whole universe was in a hot, dense state, and then 14 billion years ago, expansion started to wait.
No. So, this channel, in case you don't know what the hell DWEM stands for, is Doctor Who Expansive Multiverse.
Yep.
Or DWEM Expansive Multiverse, as the logo says.
Yeah. Or if you're feeling a little bit like nostalgic, God only knows why you would be.
DWEM, like the Atmos
said in a New Zealand accent.
Like
yeah.
Atmos system.
A chai tea? You're just saying TT.
TT Productions. No, we're not doing that. No. Okay. So Stay on target. Stay on target. So basically, DWEM started in. Now, I think the idea for it started with Eamon Longman and Aidan O'Connor in 22, because I know the first stuff
Yeah.
was coming out in 22. I don't know if it actually, like, the initial idea for it started in 2022.
Well, it started off as something where they both were going to be making a shared timeline together.
Okay.
Eamon was going to have his Kiwi doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very, very far future, in where a, a doctor had moved to another universe, which was Aidan's Burgundy doctor.
Yeah.
Aidan was going to be situated. So it started out very early days. It's just them two, which is why
Okay.
when the channel started, they were the runners of the channel at the time.
That's fair. That's fair. I am curious. Like, this is the thing that I've always been a little curious about. Is obviously you have Overton Audios, which
Hmm.
at the time, was that pre or post your split from DW 2012?
So I think a lot of the planning, because the original YouTube channel wasn't it was one of your channels, Jed, because you had some unlisted videos on there from projects that you've been working on that you use as storage. There was one video which I think we talked about the other day that would still have been on that channel, but has since been removed. But
I don't.
yeah, when we were given access to this channel, the email got switched over, and one of your very old audios that you've been working on from a long time ago was uploaded on that channel. So the channel was actually given by you.
I'll be honest with you. I'd completely forgotten that I created the DWAM channel.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no. Like I'm sorry. I personally created the channel initially.
yeah, yeah. One of your videos was already there unlisted.
Okay,
That
okay.
I don't know what we're
Uh, okay, okay.
uh
So I had forgotten that, and to be candid, like if that's true, and I'm not disputing you, Chatters, because I don't want to dispute you because I don't remember
You're fine.
this. And if this
The
is
thing is, I'm reticent to say what the video was because we did discuss it the other day, and you said that was something you're still
yeah.
working on.
Oh no
Yes.
no like oh no I'm not into like
I'm
being
not
fussed
really.
about spoilers. It was I think if you're referring to the two Omegas meeting video,
Yeah, it was like a seven
I
minute video with two Omegas.
yeah yeah.
That was
But the thing is,
uploaded
like,
in. I remember it quite well because it was uploaded in June 2022, and then we didn't have the first
I
video on DWEM till November, so it was a fairly new channel as far as I was aware. I don't know
yeah, but I
why it
don't
was made.
remember. I don't remember if it was me who made it though, because like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
for context,
to answer
sorry,
to
yeah,
answer your original question, the channel itself was made prior to the split between myself at Overton Audios and DW 2012. That happened in July, the following month, and then that's when the DWEM channel was really kind of the DWEM concept was starting
yeah.
to be more widely discussed about why don't we make stuff together as friends instead of for
I so
content.
I am curious though. So if these characters, the Kiwi Doctor, the Burgundy Doctor, existed prior to that split, was there ever any conversation about them being Overton Doctors?
Never, luckily.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
Fair enough.
well,
fair enough. I'm just
so
curious.
Emon had been filming a live action series of Kiwi for about 2 years at that point for his channel.
Okay.
Um, but the live action stuff, that's how I kind of knew him very early on. He was doing a lot of live action filming on like a very huge video camera. He wasn't using any of the HD stuff. It was all VHS and stuff like that, and which was like an interesting way to do it. But he'd been making it for so long, naturally people would stop showing up, and then he couldn't get the rest of it filmed. He was having to get the
Fair.
footage sent off to like a conversion, converting the footage, and then having to send him like a hard drive of the footage.
Not
Um,
quite.
yeah, so he never got the live action off the ground in the end, even though he like there are some old photos somewhere out there where that was the original costume or something. But no, so in the end he went, I'm just gonna go down the audio route. And then that's when him and Aidan got talking because Aidan was trying to set up the Arcadian universe and the Burgundy Doctor. And then
Oh, fair enough.
Huh.
Yeah. So basically, 2022, those guys talking about those two doctors, and I'll be honest, I had completely forgot. Like, I don't wish to dispute you, Chatters, because I don't remember one way or the other. But I could have sworn I didn't start that YouTube because if I did, I'm not being funny. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about later becomes infinitely more egregious than it initially was.
oh,
Anyway,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause-
sorry, but if that is the case, then some of the stuff that has happened, I am now like slightly a little bit more ticked off about than I
Oh,
was.
yes. Well,
But no.
email.
So
Well, I definitely remember about the DWEM email. The DWEM email
yeah,
is still to this day set up where if you like, it's got like two-factor security on it and everything like that. But it still
yeah,
goes through Aidan to this day. But it didn't always.
yeah.
It was set to Aidan after a particular point in the story that we'll be covering later, I'm sure.
Fair. But yeah. So, so DWEM proper was sort of kicking off at around about the time that a bunch of other things in that particular fan group were happening. Specifically, and without rehashing crap that's frankly irrelevant.
Mm.
You know, basically the split between it would be fair to say the split between Overton and 2012 was contentious, and
That's
that as part, yeah, and
putting
that
it
as
politely,
part of,
yeah. It was very public, that's for sure.
it was very public. I have, like we don't need to rehash all of that. But the point is, it was a
Oh,
very
no.
contentious.
Yeah.
It was a very contentious split.
Mm.
On and as part of that, a big part of that was sort of the disposition of the usage of George Gaidra's interpretation of the Blonde Doctor, which was
Yes.
that was a big sticking point, I think, for a lot of us.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah. It was
because
kind of
I remember
it became the primary reason for a lot of the disputes that I was having with Luke at the time, which was just creative control for fan doctors, for the people who play those doctors should get a say in what they want to make.
well, this is it. So I think without delving too much into that entire topic, a
No.
big part of the initial thing was George was a big reason for the success of the Blonde Doctor as a character.
Yes.
People vibed with that incarnation as he
100%.
presented it.
Yeah.
People vibed with the stuff that he brought to the table with the two shorts that he wrote.
Yes.
So there was a great desire to help him achieve more with that character.
Mhm.
Almost like, I don't want to say in spite of what he wanted, because I think he was very sick of the drama around it. But he was very grateful for people caring about it. But like he was also like, I think, a bit fed up of the drama. But regardless, so Blonde, as he would initially appear on DWEM, actually, like the first two things that we
Oh,
did
well,
were
that was a complicated thing because when the split happened, we had already recorded something for Overton Audios.
Iris.
Sorry, this is just for the viewers. There's that possibly join the channel around like 2024 ish. The Blonde Doctor and the Groovy Doctor, who are on What Fourth Wall Productions predominantly, were originally on DWEM.
Yes.
This is important context that we should probably
Important
Okay, I was
context.
going to say
Yeah,
that's actually quite a good,
that's
very good point to make.
that is a good point. So we initially, George and I, were on DWEM, but that's important context to know. That it started really with George. We wanted to be able to make Blonde Doctor stuff for George. I think around about that time, the original short trips had been pulled. So there
were some other things going on in the background.
Bunch of things got.
But I remember there was a specific thing about how the Blonde Doctor ended up on DWEM, which was during a lot of the public discourse in light of the split that we were having with
Yeah,
between 12.
yeah,
I said for the time being, to avoid George being dragged into arguments, that he should look to predominantly be on DWEM for the time being, and
yeah.
that's why because at the time, Emon and Aidan had ideas with the Blonde Doctor for stories,
Mm.
and that was
Yes.
there was always an idea that he'd be a variant on DWEM, but then he became the primary one there, and then
I
Prism
think
became
I think
secondary in light of all the kind of arguments.
I mean I think what's interesting is you can tell very early on based on some of the scripts. I don't want to make this into a Blonde Doctor podcast because this is not what this is about. But like you can tell initially that there was planned to be a much closer relationship between the DWEM universe and the Prism universe based on certain scripts and the way that the Blonde Doctor is written. But
Yeah.
that is a side tangent. We'll get to that later. So the point is, so DWEM Blonde was going to be on DWEM because basically wanted to avoid drama, didn't want to drag that out with Overton, etc.
Yes.
Absolutely fair. So Emon was working on Kiwi. Aidan was working on Burgundy, which was initially sort of released on SC. Blonde was going to be on DWEM, and then I basically repeatedly said to George, "Well, look, if you want to take Blonde somewhere else, I'll just be your successor instead.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just be your successor instead." And so I created the first of what has become a small collection of other Doctors I play apart from my original one, the Groovy Doctor, who took a very long time to get right because I had never tried to create another Doctor before. But we were so that was me there. And then on top of that, I believe was John and Harper as the Dark Doctor was added to that timeline.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that he came back again later, but then obviously it's
Yeah.
gone again.
So it was interesting because John and Harper was added to the timeline.
Yeah,
and
original 5, I think.
Yes, and then I think either shortly before or shortly after Emon's first episode released, John and he had a disagreement, quite a nasty one, and John left. But like the initial, yeah,
I do remember Techno also being a DWEM Doctor while Dark existed in the timeline.
Yeah. Yes, no. So Techno is played by Rassilon Productions. Yes, he was a part of that timeline initially as well. So, and then replacing Dark after John and Emon fell out was Isaac Blake as the Navy Doctor. So we had quite a
volatile
little cut. Well, a very volatile start, I think, and it's interesting because this is again getting ahead, but I think there were a lot of conflicting ideas going around about how it should play out and what it should do. So my overriding impression was Emon was working predominantly on his Kiwi stuff. He had ideas. He wanted to run DWEM Blonde's first volume. Certainly, he and Aidan had a lot of strong ideas about that. So they were predominantly working on that. I was commissioned to write one episode of that. The script for which still exists, actually. And one day I will find a use for that fucking script. I swear to God. Pardon my French, everybody. But so I. So 2022, Emon releases his first episode. I scored it. Subsequently, we get to Christmas. Emon releases his second episode. Around about this time as well, I think, was talk of the big DWEM 60th, which at the time...
Oh, dear, yeah.
Yeah, no, so that was actually a very successful...
it's all coming back to me. Oh.
So that was a sort of concurrent building thing that had been worked.
There was a teaser. There was a teaser made in November 2022 of everyone, like title cards. I think Isaac had made it. We'd recorded one line each.
Was there a script script ready by the time that released. Like, I'm not saying much here
Well,
because I
there
was a
was.
fan around the time this happened.
Oh
I
no.
never really interacted with you guys outside of, oh, this stuff is really cool, guys.
Well,
So there
there
were
was
multiple scripts. There were
there were.
multiple scripts.
I think I could believe that there were 10 drafts.
I think
Um,
we talked about this. I think we talked about this on the Overton Audios podcast
we
for the
did. If
60th.
you because
You know,
that's the thing.
we spent a
There
we spent a
was
long time actually discussing like the very lengthy because there was a fan film draft. There was the first audio
it
draft.
was visualized as a film because
Mm.
Eamon was planning on coming over to the UK in the summer of 2023, and that's when we would have filmed his bits.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the end, it was
So
realized it was too large of a concept. He wrote like a 200-page script, and then and I think I can't remember, and correct me if
No,
I'm
that
wrong.
thing was massive.
Yeah, yeah. Correct me
oh
if
no,
I'm
no, like
correct me
the
if I'm
original film one was worse.
yeah, it was way
Jesus.
worse. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jed, but I know there was one version. I think it was, I can't remember if it was pre-Groovy or around the time of the Groovy Doctor's conception, because it was that early on when all this, when so many versions were in. I
hmm
remember there was one version of the script where we all read it,
Yep.
and there was a point where everyone was in it but you. Like
Okay. No. No.
everyone.
No.
Was it
Okay.
not that? I can remember that there was
Okay.
a
So so in the film version, the
Mm,
Nth Doctor was present because this was prior to DWEM and prior to Groovy existing.
right. Okay.
Then there was the first audio version where I appeared like for like two
One line,
minutes at the end.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like a lot of fan doctors appeared in that for like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember like this was even before I joined production of of anything. Eamon asked me to be last in it.
hmm.
It
But the
and then
thing
I
is,
haven't
Um,
in
heard
the
anything
original
from it.
script, there were people in it who never had a line, and it was an audio drama. But it said they were there, and I'm like, what are you talking
which,
about?
yeah, which is like okay, you know, fair enough. Maybe the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny are there too. But no. So then there was as well. Subsequently, there was a draft where all of those extra doctors, including me, were cut out. And the thing is, at the time, I was a bit like, oh,
Oh, that's what it was.
um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So at the time, I was a bit like,
It was nearly 4 years ago now. It's weird to
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jesus
And at the
Christ, it's been 4 years.
no, and
Yeah.
at the time, I remember quite clearly, I was a bit like, um,
You weren't
you know,
happy.
well, I'm not being funny, but like I was on the group chat, I was a part of the group. I
Yeah.
had said multiple times. I think I literally flat out said to Eamon, look, I'm happy to be in it more. You know, don't feel like you have to cut me out. Don't feel like I'd object to being in this thing more. And
I remember an argument being made going, this isn't the film version and I'm having to go anywhere. I can literally, it's an audio. I can show
yeah,
up.
yeah, I could,
I think
yeah,
that was the argument made. It was different. It'd be
yeah,
different if it
and
was.
no, and then the only place that the Nth Doctor appeared was in the film epilogue that he wrote, which, if I recall correctly, I appeared to say, I bet all these other guys got to be in it. And then two other guys called me
Oh,
bitter.
God, I don't miss it.
Which I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny. In retrospect, I feel like that kind of prefaces some stuff
Yes.
that happened later.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, so that had its first teaser. That eventually, like, I think if the final draft of that script at that time hadn't been finished by the time the teaser happened, certainly the final concept had been finalized because the final teaser that went out had pretty much all the characters who were going to be in it, including the architect, it's played Dominic G. Martin. You know, I think Kenna Davala's Doctor as well was in it.
Yep.
Blonde was in it.
Yep.
Burgundy was in it. Kiwi was in it. You know, everybody who was going to be in the damn thing, you know, at the time was in it. Not everybody who turned out to be in the final thing, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But no. So, give me now the time. So that teaser went out. Eamon's first episode went out. Eamon's second episode went. Like, it was a nice sedentary release period, and then over the sort of New Year period, I had revamped the two original Blonde Doctor audios. So I'd been sent the edits of those that Dom did without title music, and I revamped those. I did like revamped cover art and stuff. So those went out, and then two more audios featuring the Blonde Doctor, two more short trips featuring the Blonde Doctor also went out. So we had a presence for the Blonde Doctor, which was initially intended to sort of preface the Blonde first volume that was meant to go out in 2023, which did not happen, but we'll get to that in a minute. And in the meantime, I had gotten slightly frustrated with the Groovy Doctor because I was like, I don't know how to fucking create a new Doctor, pardon my language. Having created one already, I don't know how to do Doctor Who, but not this. And so what I ended up doing was going, all right, to hell with it, he breaks the fourth wall, and that's his entire shtick. He's a cantankerous git who breaks the fourth wall. And miraculously, despite the fact that there was some reservation, like even George was not entirely certain it would work, which is fair because it's a difficult thing to envision at the time. But like, despite it sort of being a little bit, despite it being a bit sort of an out there concept at the time, how naive we were, it worked. So the first trailer went out early January of 2023, and the first 4 episodes went out sort of late January and mid-February, in weekly releases, and reasonably well regarded. So
it was received well.
Yeah, so we have
fast forward. He almost has enough appearances, as much as appearances as Nth.
No, genuinely. There are almost as many Groovy appearances as there are Nth Doctor videos now.
No, I know.
So
I think you're 5 less.
8 less.
8 less.
Something like that. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Anyway, so the Groovy Doctor goes out. It's all very successful, and then a few things happened, and now bear in mind, dear listeners, you are hearing this as one nice solid chunk. We are recording this on Zoom, which means that periodically we are having to check the time to make sure that we're not overrunning the time limit that Zoom is giving us. So
7 minutes 13 seconds.
We'll give it a cliffhanger.
Oh no. Okay, so later in 2023, the first 3 episodes of the Kiwi Doctor's first series went out.
Yeah, it came out as a 12. It was meant to be a 12-episode series across 4 volumes.
Yeah. So that first 3, I believe, intended to mimic the original release of like the series 1 through 4 DVDs, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's more leaning into Big Finish and how they do sometimes. Well, I suppose with them, when they do the Torchwood story continues, that's still 4 at a time. But with 3 volumes, he was doing 3 episodes at a time with 4 volumes.
Fair.
So you're probably more accurate than I am.
I remember a lot of different things were thrown around. To be fair, it was a very long time ago now. Scary to think about it. But yeah, so those episodes came out, and basically, around about that time, other doctors were coming in. Matthew Mills and I had discussed that they wanted to do the Goblin Doctor. So they'd come in and they were like, I'd love to be like a doctor well before George. So there were conversations around that, and this is where the first glimmer of things being a little bit off happened, because basically I was like, okay, are we going to announce Goblin? And I believe the way that it sort of went was Eamon, and I think Aidan as well, but I think primarily Eamon were like, no, we're going to keep Goblin a surprise. And I was a bit like, I don't know why you'd want to do that, really, but sure, whatever. I guess it wasn't what I would have done, but I wasn't. So at the time, my focus was I just wanted to get Groovy right and do Groovy properly, because I had planned to only do Groovy for 3 years and to do 9 very short volumes with these very short episodes.
That didn't happen.
That did not happen.
I was just thinking, aren't we on the 3rd year at the moment?
We
are, and we're on
volume
series 4. Yeah,
we are on volume 4. We are on the eternal volume 4. But yeah, so my focus was basically, I'm going to just make these and schedule these, because we all had separate upload privileges, and
I think I know where this part
and my perspective at the time was, I will make and upload things to my schedule because that's what I have always done on my channel. And at the time, my understanding of how DWEM was supposed to operate, which, as it turns out, was not other people's understanding, everybody. But my understanding of how DWEM was supposed to operate was, we are all broadly speaking in charge of our own stuff. Like we want to coordinate it. We wanted to coordinate a little with things like the canon, like who appears what where. We wanted to coordinate a little bit with the canon and how that play with each other. So, for example, when I was writing Groovy Volume 3, I changed some things based on what Emon told me the state of DWEM Fraser was at the time. So there was a lot of.
Well, I mean, do you remember as well about a week before you scheduled uploaded the second volume? There was a big DWEM meeting, which for some reason I was.
But
they'd created a spreadsheet to give everyone a timetable of when it could be done by. And I remember you were not happy. I was just watching.
Okay, so I was not happy, but there were a lot of reasons why I was not happy. So first and foremost, I'd uploaded. I think by that point I'd finished a lot of Volume 2.
Yeah,
I'd uploaded like the one episode, like the special in between episode, which was like needs of the narrative. I don't know if it's listed as episode 0 or episode 1 of Groovy Volume 2 now on What Fourth Wall, but at the time it was like a special in between Volume 1 and 2 episode where Groovy reacted to my cameo, like to Groovy's cameo in Emon's series, which I did it as a favor to him, basically, because like that had meant to be the Dark Doctor. John and he fell out, so I did it. So I did that to react to it, and then I did my trailer for Volume 2, and this is where things started to fall apart, which is where around about the time that I was planning on doing the trailer, Jack Reeves, who had at the time run the Doctor Who community show, made the ill-advised decision, in my estimation, of, despite being a person who was running the community show, of saying that he did not like any fan Doctors Who, that in his opinion, like, we weren't real Doctors Who, so what was the point, effectively, or something to that effect. It's been a long time since I watched that video. It was ill-advised. Everybody was sort of ragging on him a bit for it, especially since like he'd covered a lot of fan Doctors, and what he said could come across as quite rude. So I put a sort of biting remark from Groovy in the trailer, because it's like, yes, I'm going to put a biting remark in the trailer.
Well, he also breaks the fourth wall. He breaks the fourth wall. So he's
So Groovy breaks the fourth wall. And to be honest, by that time I was settling on him being a bit punky, a bit like biting commentary on the state of fandom. That's sort of the idea that I had for him, was that his job, narratively speaking, was he's going to sit there and comment on the fandom when the fandom's being a little bit shit. Again, pardon my French. And Emon. So this is how it went out. The trailer went out. People were sort of laughing about it a bit. So Emon sent me a long message first, like privately. And the thing is, for context, about 9 months previously, at George's suggestion, actually, I'd spoken to Emon and like a lot of other people on the big Doctors group chat that existed at the time, where I knew Emon and a few of the others from. And basically to the effect of, I have a lot of trauma surrounding collaborating in very big groups. I have a lot of trust issues. I've had a lot of bad experiences. It makes it difficult for me to trust and to open up and to be fully believe that I'm with friends and collaborators and not just people who are going to screw me over. And everybody at the time made noises to the effect of, thank you for trusting us with this. Thank you for, opening up to us about this. We promise that we are not going to do that to you. And one of the things that I believe I'd mentioned was that, like, I didn't like things like long messages, that they were triggering. Yeah. I don't know, actually. I can't remember if I specifically mentioned that at the time.
You
but
did.
Regardless,
I remember it.
So Emon sent me a big long message, basically to the effect of telling me off for the content of my trailer, which I'll be honest, I was not prepared mentally to engage with a big long message immediately. So my thought process was, you know what? I'll see it, I'll leave it, and I'll engage with it when I'm ready. And I'll be honest, and I'll say, look, it's my series, you know. Iris?
I think this is around the time I'm where I was actually interacting with you guys, right?
A bit more. So I think so.
I was cast as magistrate. I know that at this time.
Yeah. So around about this time as well, it should be noted that George was going through a hell of a time, like a really strenuous time. Whatever blonde volume was supposed to be happening on DWEM, George basically was not in the headspace for it at all.
No.
There was a very real possibility that there would not really be DWEM blonde content, because George was not in the headspace to be in a full volume. So I had at the time thought to myself, well, look, full volume, that's something that Emon and Aiden and whoever, they're dealing with full volume stuff. But I can put together like a bunch of short trips with a bunch of people I know would really like to, be part of that. So I got Iris in, I got Lucy Smith in, who now plays Charlie Chalice. I got Lucy Spencer in Spoon. I mentioned you already, didn't I, Iris?
Yep.
My brain.
Yep.
I was planning actually on getting Aiden in as well because I knew Aiden and George were friends at the time. And basically, the plan was create another series of short trips that would play around a bit with, the Blonde Doctor and do a few more things to keep Blonde Doctor content going until George was ready to come back and do a full volume.
Yeah.
So you were aware at the time that this was sort of happening because I think I was talking about it at the time that this was happening. I was like, oh.
Yeah, we had like a separate, like smaller group chat because I never actually interacted with most of the DWEM people until
afterwards.
Later.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened then was Emon left me that message and I was like, okay, well, I'll engage with this later. Because apparently Jack Reeves, quote unquote, was not happy. And I'll be honest, I was strongly of the opinion that Jack Reeves being happy or not with me taking the piss out of him was my problem, not DWEM's problem. Emon believed differently. Emon believed that it reflected poorly on DWEM. Your mileage may vary. Perhaps I should not have unilaterally made a point of taking the piss out of somebody. But then I was sort of the opinion that everybody and their wife surely knew that Groovy was me and just me. Like aesthetically, it was stuff like I made. Aesthetically, it looked like me. In terms of like everything else, it looked like me. It was mad, basically. So I was very much of the opinion that no, if I have upset Jack Reeves, then I will deal with that. It doesn't reflect on DWEM because I did it. I made the decision to. And that's what I was going to basically say to Emon. Except that 10 minutes after he messaged me, he messaged a group chat with a bunch of DWEM people in it, basically saying, look, this is not on. You need to run this stuff by us, basically. And I was like, do I? You don't run stuff by me. You're not my boss. I didn't say that, but my overriding attitude at that point was, respectfully, nobody had ever said to me during the formation of this DWEM malarkey, oh, by the way, Emon Longman is the boss. Because I'll be honest, I wouldn't have done it if I thought I was going to get bossed around. I wouldn't have invested as much energy into it if I knew I was going to get bossed around, because I don't want to be bossed around for my fucking hobby, pardon my language. So
you don't need to pardon your language. We're going to get into much deeper stuff in a bit.
Oh no. So okay, so like in the meantime, I was talking with people about it a bit on one of the fan servers, like the Doctor Who fan universe server, I think. Was that what it was called? Fan multiverse, something like that?
The one that Spoon ran?
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Who fan multiverse. Yes.
Yeah. So I was talking with people about it on the Doctor Who fan multiverse, and supposedly Jack Reeves had seen it while he was on his honeymoon, and I was a bit like, he's watching Groovy content while he's on his honeymoon, really?
Also, like he's a person that said he doesn't exactly like fan doctors. Why would he be watching a fan doctor?
And so I was genuinely a bit confused by it, but it was like, I'm taking the piss out of a guy who said a daft thing. I didn't see anything wrong with it particularly. If he wanted to take it up with me, he was more than welcome to. And then Emon put me on blast on the server publicly in front of everybody, like yelled at me. Yeah, no, I think if you were on, if we're still on that server, we could probably.
I still am.
Yeah, so you could go and look in the server and probably still find those messages because they were never deleted.
I don't even. I have no memory.
You don't have you. Oh no! So he put me on blast publicly on the server. So you at the time made a comment to the effect of, maybe it's not such a good idea making a joke while the guy's on his honeymoon, which might have been a fair point, except for what turned out later. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But so, Emon put me on blast. I had a go at him, basically to the effect of, look, no offense, you sent a big fucking long message triggering me. What the fuck? I will deal with this when I'm in the headspace of not being triggered. Okay?
Of course,
this is you could and it had been like half an hour since his first message. It's like, can you not give me a bit of time to process and fucking formulate a response to this effectively? And subsequent to that, I left the DWEM Doctors group chat because I wasn't really interested in being on a group chat where I was going to get put on blast. It didn't interest me. And with the best will in the world, it was not a very useful collaborative space because nobody really offered to help me make groovy stuff there. I had obviously been in a couple of things for Emon. Emon voiced one character in Groovy Volume 2. But generally, it was not a space where I felt very collaborated with or not unwelcome, but certainly not necessary. It wasn't necessary for me to be there. So I left it. I left a big long message and then I left it and I was like, you know what? I'll just make Groovy and I'll just put Groovy up and the rest of you can do whatever because Groovy, Groovy's kind of off in his little Groovy corner grooving anyway. Yeah. And I think at this point I was as well a little bit peeved that I'd been left out of the big DWEM 60th, anyway. So at this point, I'd already started planning the counter-programming 60th, which ended up becoming the What Fourth Wall 60th proper. So subsequent to that was the call that you were talking about earlier, which was the spreadsheet call, where I'll be honest, I appreciate that there are some people for whom spreadsheets and scheduling are an important part of the way that they engage with the hobby of fan media creation. I appreciate that. I respect that. It's not how I do it.
That's fair.
It's not how I've ever done it.
Fair.
It's not. And I felt like what pissed me off about that was Emon had, at the same time, he'd also fired me as the composer for Kiwi. And subsequently, asked Anthony Tremaine to score Kiwi's next few volumes instead. Which, I'll be honest, part of me hadn't enjoyed so much scoring the first 3 episodes of Kiwi's series proper because, I don't want to say that Emon had rubbed me the wrong way a little. He had a little. I was at things like, the Nth Doctor being bitter in his epilogue sort of sat ill with me, and I was a bit like, why is that a thing? But so he fired me, and he brings me onto this conversation, which is all about spreadsheets and how I have to schedule my stuff just so. And I was sitting there a bit like, I'm not your employee. You've treated me like shit. Why am I here? Why am I wasting my time having this conversation? But fine, whatever. So I uploaded volume 2, and I uploaded the Goblin Doctor's first episode because Matthew Mills had recorded it. It was edited, and we, scheduled it. It was ready.
Yeah.
And then I think about a week before Groovy Volume 2 was meant to start releasing, actually, like a week, 2 weeks before Groovy Volume 2 was meant to start releasing, I was going on and I was doing some work on the descriptions. And suddenly, I was kicked off. I was kicked off of DWEM. I was actually talking to people, I think, on the group chat when it happened. Yes, I don't know if you remember. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, Iris, too much, but so I was on the group chat talking about, we're going to do this stuff and we're going to do this stuff, and we're going to include these things, because we might as well, right? We were quite knee deep in planning what was at the time the second volume of Blonde Short Trip, so we were quite engaged with it. It was fun.
Yeah,
we were, I
we
think
were doing our own thing.
Yeah,
Oh, I think
yeah.
at this point, Spoon was cast as Neon.
I don't think Spoon was cast as Neon until after. I think Spoon being cast as Neon was like that was definitely because we keep saying that they are the first What Fourth Wall original Doctor, so they were cast when
Right,
what?
right,
Yeah.
yes.
So what happened then was so we cast Lucy as Charlie, I think, by this point, because Lucy as Charlie was going to appear in a couple of bits. So that we'd made that call
Yeah.
basically. But yeah, so and as part of that as well, like I'd had access to the Twitter. So from the Tweet Deck, which was like the scheduling tool that Twitter had at the time before Elon Musk murdered it all,
Oh yeah.
um, I scheduled a metric ton of posts to go out over the next few months because it's like, no, I have this tool. I'm going to schedule this stuff. That way, we're ahead of the curve. We're ahead of the game. We're all good. We're all golden.
Yeah.
Um, I want us to be on the ball with this so that everybody's hard work can be appreciated.
Yeah.
And then Friday evening, I couldn't tell you exactly what Friday evening, but I'm pretty certain that like if Iris went back and looked at what fourth wall, we could see exactly when
It,
what
it
fourth
was
wall was.
about late May.
It was late May. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember around that time, um, because for context, from I was obviously seeing things from the opposite side, so to speak. What the plan was, but again, I think this is where the biggest problem from the beginning was always communication. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the way that Emon had planned to do Kiwi Doctor was every 2 months there'd be a volume, so it would be a month gap in between. So he was going to be going and doing up till the 60th, releasing 4 volumes. So it was going to go
Mm-hmm.
something like April, I think it was going April, June, August, and then he was going to quickly release the volume in October, and then the 60th.
Mm-hmm.
So from his perspective, when he went to upload it and he went on the video manager, he hadn't seen that Groovy had been uploaded at all. So when he found out, it had probably been up for weeks, but nobody had looked at the channel. It was just suddenly there, all set up. And it was really
Yeah.
confusing because I think he'd already had that spreadsheet meeting and explained that.
Well, the thing
At
is,
the
I
time,
I I think at the
as
time,
well, at the time
I,
it was being released on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. GMT.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah,
was releasing stuff on Saturdays at midnight or 7 a.m. because he's in New Zealand. So
yeah, yeah.
the timings of it were space enough, but they people seemed very they wanted everything to have visibility and not and everything like that. And I understood that from the perspective of their stuff, people's stuff wanting to be seen. But it was very chaotic, and based on obviously of all the context you've given so far, it was like I think in their minds it was just another thing.
So
In their minds, obviously they were seeing it from the
yeah,
complete opposite view. This isn't me like trying to excuse it
yeah,
at
yeah,
all because it
yeah,
was
yeah.
just a chaotic, messy time
So
of
the
poor
thing
decisions.
the thing that happened that from my perspective was so the passwords I was locked out like
Yeah,
that. Uh, and frankly, if I was the one who initially started that channel, which I still don't remember that it was me who did that, but if it
your
was me,
one of your videos was on there when it started. It was unlisted, and it was there for a long time.
so
So I guess it has to be,
it
which
either was or they created that channel really early and they gave me access really early, which I don't remember. Maybe they did that. I look. I have enough stuff to be pissed off at them about. I'm not like I still have to be pissed off at Emon about anyway. So I have enough stuff to be pissed off about. I'm not going to get pissed off about something I don't remember properly because it's a bit like if that's true, hmm, but anyway. So subsequent to that, then
Yeah.
subsequent to that, password had been changed. I was
Mhm.
locked out, and initially I was like, "Has something happened? Has there been a reason to change the password?" So I messaged Emon. He ignored me. I messaged him again. He ignored me.
wasn't there like 2 days where he just didn't
He blanked.
No,
respond
He
yeah,
at
it
he
was
all?
the
blanked.
weekend.
He
It was the
blanked me.
weekend. It was the
He
weekend.
blanked me. He blanked me until the Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I had been using the DWEM like docs to write scripts for Groovy and for Blonde, and for other things, which to be frank, like I needed access to those because I wanted to write my damn scripts.
Yeah.
You know, so to lose access to those was very frustrating. It became, and the thing is, so it became very apparent when he wasn't replying. Oh, I'm being kicked off. And
I
then
think
George
I know what you're
kicked
about.
off.
Is this about the cake thing?
I mean, I wasn't going to mention the fact that while
well, we'll just say we'll call it cake for now, maybe.
Okay, so no, the thing that was aggravating.
I'm looking at Irish.
I don't even know what this is.
Okay. So for context, while I was messaging him,
of DWEM law,
while I was messaging him, asking what the hell is going on, I need to access my stuff. Please tell me what's happening. Explain.
He was at a party or something, I think.
Oh no. So basically, like he claimed that he was super busy, and yet he had time somehow to reply to the group chat talking about how humans were just cum cakes. He had time to say that on the group chat, but he didn't have time to say to me, "Oh yeah, I've changed the passwords and this is why." And then when he explained it to me, so by the time he actually explained it to me on the Monday, I'd already set up what Fourth Wall Productions because I'm like, I've been kicked off. George has been kicked off. Matthew has effectively been kicked off without ever being spoken to. George,
I remember there was like a passing comment. It's like, hey, what if Blonde Groovy went to Gormico, but that didn't go anywhere because next day, What Fourth Wall went up.
Well, I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'll just start a new channel. It's not that difficult, so I started a new channel. I will admit, I was impressed with myself at the sheer fucking speed of, okay, so here's What Fourth Wall Productions, here's the logo,
sheer speed of the
idea.
whole, full branding, and somehow still the branding we use.
Pretty much.
Can't exactly be said about DWEM, but okay.
Well, the less we talk about those bloody idents.
But no. So
which also context for audio listeners, the logo we have at this particular moment for the DWEM podcast is the very first logo for DWEM.
Yes.
Which I made. Which I was it was a bit like naff and cheapo, but I kind of like the naff and cheapo.
We are kind of telling the story at this point, aren't we? So it's and, you know, we are trying to look back now, especially when we talk about where we're going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So he had time to talk about cum cakes, but he didn't have time to reply to me. So I was like, okay, we're being kicked off. I'm going to start a new channel, and we'll work on the process of re-uploading everything, which was a bitch to do. So, and then when he finally did speak to me, it was like he was very like short with me. He was very like, you know, yeah, I did this because you did this and you did this, and I'm like, you know, because you're not being a very good collaborator. I'm like, doesn't really excuse kicking me off without so much as a conversation about it and holding my scripts hostage. Doesn't really excuse that.
And nobody mentioning it to you at all.
You know, I spoke with Aiden about it, and Aiden was just like, "Oh yeah, well, it's been done with now."
I will quickly preface as well. Sorry to interrupt. I will preface. I'm not a part of DWEM yet. I'm just a
you were
a full-time witness. A full-time witness is what I describe myself.
You were the poor witness to all this shit show happening. But so basically, around the Wednesday, Emon messaged me and said, you know, are you okay? Which I thought was a bit rich, and I, quite frankly, was not okay. Iris will tell you I was not okay. This was basically like, oh, this is everything that I was afraid of happening in a collaborative group happening to me all over again.
Yeah.
So I was really upset. So I said to him, quite frankly, no. And okay, trigger warning. We're going to put in the edit a great big trigger warning sign going up. We're going to talk
giant alarm sound.
So we're going to talk about really heavy stuff. So, you know, this is the part where
it might just be better to put, because I don't know what the time codes are to be able to find this now. In the
So
trigger warning the entire podcast, just in case.
Trigger warning the entire podcast. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so So anyway, I told him, frankly, what you've done has really heavily triggered me. It sent me back to a really depressive mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I'm having my suicidal ideation that as a result of this, because, this is exactly the stuff that happened to me before, and it's really set me off, and it's really bad for my mental health. So no, Emon, I am not all right.
Mm.
And then on the Friday morning, Emon sent a bunch of messages to you, me, and a bunch of other people, basically the effect of, I'm a shit friend and I'm going to kill myself.
Yes, and I for context for me, myself and my current girlfriend had literally, I'd woken up, had a conversation with her, and just made things official. I was on cloud nine, and then I got a call uh, from Elon to that effect, and it very much brought me down to reality. And at that point, that was when I did my first act, shall we say? I think, if that's fair to
So,
say, my first act
this is what this is.
of certainly of some aggression towards you.
So this is what happened. Emon sent that. You tagged me in the big group chat, basically to the effect of, "What the fuck is going on? Sort this shit out now, Jed."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh." So I left the group chat, and this is the thing is, it isn't all on you, because obviously you weren't aware of the full context of things. I think, to be candid, and sorry if this hurts anyone's feelings, but there was a lot of people on that group chat. One of you reached out to ask me if I was okay. And the thing that was funny is my spouse was on that chat still for about 45 minutes afterwards, where several members of that chat who were not involved really, and Aiden as well, put me on blast for being immature and for it being my fault. So, and if I sound irritated, it's because, I'll be brutally honest, you've apologized to me, Connor, and I will happily say publicly, like, you apologized. You have, in my mind, for what wrongs have been done towards me, you and I have reconciled, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There are some people on that group chat who were horrible about me, and were horrible around me, and have been horrible about me subsequently, and have never apologized. So, yeah, I still know. I haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that sort of solidified. Yeah, okay. What 4/4 Productions exists. I think the thing that kind of really got me as well was, so that was the Friday, and then on the Sunday, without even mentioning the group chat or what had happened or the way you'd spoken to me, you messaged me asking if I'd done the lines for the Overton 60th yet. And I was a bit, no, like literally, you didn't ask. Oh, you sort of went in a sort of like blasé way. Oh, how are you doing? And I was a bit like, really not good, actually. And you sort of brushed over that a little and were just like, oh, have you done these lines yet? And I'm like,
oh, okay. Well, have you had time? God.
No, I hadn't. Which, yeah. So that was a bit frustrating.
I don't mean, I'm just laughing at how.
No.
Not at you.
It sounds
stupid.
It sounds absurd when we say it back, to be fair, yeah. So anyway, What 4/4 Productions at that point was like, yeah, okay, we're What 4/4 Productions now, let's go make shit happen. So, over the subsequent months, to be frank, we fucking ignored DWEM.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. So that's a lie. And petty as it might sound, so we remade volumes 1 and 2 of Groovy and the volume 1 of Blonde Short Trips.
Is the third out of 4 releases of The Garden.
I know. it was so fucking hilarious. But like, so we did a lot of things. The Blonde Shorts, we actually like significantly reworked to include like the revised George performance and like an extended version of The Garden that was so much better. So, we took the opportunity to sort of improve a lot of things. And then I think the crowning achievements of that time were, so there had meant to be in the August a release called 1 Second for Eternity, which was a multi-doctor story on DWEM, where George and I had actually featured. That never happened, but because we knew that was going to happen.
It was like one of the first multi-doctor stories written for the original DWEM, and it was a story. I've still got the original script.
Oh, so do we.
We do too. Yeah.
Yes.
I
think
The
everyone-
first multi-doctor story to ever have been invented.
Yeah. So the reason that the Heart of Divinity exists is I thought, well, okay, I want us to have a multi-doctor story with who we've got. And at that time, obviously, we had Techno and Eccentric because Josh and Rory had both spoken to me subsequent to the whole thing and been like, yeah, no, we'll do stuff on What Fourth Wall. It's all the same timeline, sure. Because there was never a point up until then where we said we want to not be in the same timeline as you pricks. Because at that point, I was like, well, look, you kicked us out. I'm not going to be beholden to you. But that's it.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't going to turn around and say, yeah, we're not part of the same timeline, because at that point, Groovy and Blonde were still on DWEM as well. So we made Heart of Divinity. We made like the extended volume 1 of Groovy. We made the volume 1 of Short Trips of Blonde again. We added new episodes that had never previously existed. We released volume 2 of Groovy. It was a nice run of things that happening. We were all quite proud of that. And then like some
weekly uploads.
Yeah, like for a while it was almost weekly, leading into like mid-August, I think. And then we did the inverse announcement, because obviously Iris wanted to bring the inverse doctor idea. That you had that for a while before. That was like
I can tell you where I was when that trailer dropped.
Oh.
Hold on. First off, I do want to. I originally had the idea for the Inverse Doctor back when I was in Ewan Hoyle's universe for Clever, if I recall correctly.
Oh, wow.
But that didn't work out. So then I revisited it later on. It's like, yeah, I wasn't exactly that proud of the last era anymore, considering I started it when I was 14, 15, and I wanted to do something similar but different and also connected and all that. I almost went to Instability, but then I was like, What Fourth Wall seems like a good area.
I mean, so from my perspective, Iris was just like, yeah, can I do this on here? I was like, yeah. Look, I'm not gonna I prided myself basically on being like, you know what? I'll just let people do things. I'm not going to get precious about it. I'm a little bit like the teensiest bit more rigid now about it, but only the teensiest bit, because it's been a long time and we've got a lot on. But yeah. So where were you when that trailer dropped?
Wait, seems like you have an interesting story.
Yeah. So at that point when that trailer dropped, Eamon was over in the UK.
Okay.
And he was over at mine for about 3 weeks. There were some DWEM live action stories being shot, all this sort of stuff. I remember, I think the teaser came out, it came out about 12:30 on a beautiful sunny August day.
Yeah.
And I remember being sat there, and I have like notifications on for people I'm subscribed to and want to watch. So my computer just pinged, and I was like, oh, and Eamon was sat behind me. I went, oh, I didn't know you were doing a new Doctor, or like the DWEM universe was doing a new Doctor, and he didn't either. So he, but the problem is, it
didn't
leads
we
into
tell
what
him weeks ago? Didn't we tell him like a couple weeks beforehand?
Okay.
But it leads into that thing again about like the expectation of communication, but not giving any in the first place.
Okay, so the thing is, like I will be perfectly brazen about this. I would never have fucking told him anyway. And here's the thing, that might sound petty and kind of childish of me, for which, I will admit that is kind of petty and childish. But from my perspective, we'd been kicked off. Any expectation that they had of us continuing to keep them in the loop was effectively, in my head, no point. Why would I keep you in the loop?
You're operating as your own group at that point.
Yeah,
they weren't talking to us. We weren't really talking to them. So
there were messages.
Yeah,
There were messages exchanged. I don't remember when they were exactly, but Emon did message me on. He used the DWEM channel, and he messaged my What for Fall channel, and basically there were conversations around. Okay, so what's the deal with some of these doctors? And the big ones were like I told him about Inverse and Neon. I don't remember if this was before or after the announcement. It might have been after the announcement because to be
it
fair,
was after, based on his
yeah.
reaction.
Because I'm not being funny. There was no way in hell I was just going to keep that guy in the loop when
No, but this is all about like because I'm to kind of sadly the voice of them
yeah.
in this part. Their thought process regarding what Fourth Wall represented was the early part of the timeline,
Hmm.
and that it was two halves of a timeline. So when other doctors like Inverse, Boundless, I think Boundless was the one that created the most alarm bells for them because it was so far ahead.
Yeah. Oh no. So
Like
when
it
Boundless,
was this misunderstanding, and everyone like and naturally and understandably, people weren't talking to each other, but they needed to have
yeah.
some like healthy communication. So
So
when all these
so
doctors were dropping,
no.
nobody knew what the context was and any of the plans, and nobody would ask.
Yeah. So so
That's just like
so
what's going on.
so from my perspective, Boundless deliberately existed because I was aware. Oh, sorry, Iris.
Sorry, just wanted to do a quick warning. We do have about 6 minutes, 17 seconds.
Thank you. So I'll wrap this up and head into a cliffhanger and end on a decent note.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like Boundless, like to be honest, at that point I had noticed that we had a lot of doctors early in the timeline. And I was like, you know what? No, I'd like us to have a doctor late in the timeline. And Sue and I discussed it, and we came up with the concept of the very last doctor ever.
Mm.
And that
Sue.
and that did create a conversation. And here's the thing. So that did create a conversation. It was one of the first times that splitting the two timelines actually was mooted. So the thing with Boundless was that, as I said, the idea was we didn't have many doctors at the latter end of the timeline. I was quite fond of the idea of having doctors further on the timeline because, funnily enough, there was never a conversation about, oh, what fourth wall is the early part of the timeline, DWEM is the later part. No, nobody said that to me. Did
No.
anyone say that to you? Did anyone say that to you, Iris? Did anyone mention that offhandedly to you?
They just sort of ignored me.
Yeah, no, valid.
Oh.
So basically, I was like, we don't have many doctors at the arse end of the timeline. I'd like a doctor at the arse end of the timeline. And on a walk to the gym, Sage and I came up with the idea of the Boundless Doctor, which ended up being the concept for the very last incarnation of that character. And around about that time, with that and the announcement of Inverse and stuff, was when Emon was messaging and being like, he was trying to be friendly. I don't know how genuine it was, or whether he was just trying to, get me to come into line. I don't know if he talked to you about like whether he was trying to make amends, or whether he was just
What time of year was this?
This was June,
July,
August.
Yeah, around July and August time is when I started trying to give more advice for trying to make amends. That was when because he was actively in the UK with me talking to Aidan about it, and I'm just in the room listening to rambling and going, for goodness sake. Just
so he was messaging me about it, and I remember we had a long conversation where I was basically like, Boundless is the 2,010,000th Doctor and the last. They are intended, he is intended to be the last incarnation of the Doctor, and he dies. That's it. The end. Finito. Done. To which Emon replied with, "Oh, well, this is some stuff that I wanted to do with Kiwi that is actually this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, but like you are not specifying. You didn't tell me any of this, and to be honest, I'm not changing what I want to do with Boundless because Sage and I have come up with this idea and we're really fond of it, so we're not changing that. And it's 2,010,000 incarnations into the future. You can say whatever the hell happened in between. It's the same with he wanted to specify that if Boundless encountered the Master, that the Master would be from a parallel universe or something, because Kiwi's version of the Master was going to die forever and ever, amen. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, that
yeah,
was that. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, but again, I don't think there's any need to specify that, because it's 2,000,010 incarnations into the future. Anything could have happened in the last 2,000,010 incarnations to sort of, answer that question. So I wasn't ever going to, I had very little interest. I mean, I'll be candid. Again, I don't want to be, I don't want to say that I was an angel about it. I was not interested in playing nice, because from my perspective, here was somebody who had kicked me and my friends off of the channel and then was trying to dictate what we did on our own. Really? And here's the thing that gets me about it is it was all one way. It was all, here's stuff that we are doing, we want you to conform to. Here's stuff that we are doing, we want you to be aware of so that you don't contradict us. And it's like, well, okay, but you're not asking what we're doing, except to tell us that we shouldn't be. You're not.
It always leads back to the communication, which was always the issue, I think, as well. There was obviously like much larger issues that were at play,
Yeah.
but whenever it came to trying to align the content of the channel, the communication wasn't there, and it was too much assumption. Like, the problem is that because I was at this point still like I wasn't overseeing, but like I was just seeing this happen with friends.
Yes.
I was under the assumption that when they were telling me that what Fourth Wall was doing one part and DWEM was doing another part, that is just what had been agreed. So when all these doctors were being announced, I was under the impression that this was something that you'd gone out of your way to do and be difficult, because that is all I was hearing from their side.
Okay. So to be completely candid, then, for the complete avoidance of doubt, at no point during the formation of What Fourth Wall Productions was there ever any conversation about What Fourth Wall Productions in relation to DWEM at that moment. No. The only thing that was ever said was by Emon right before he put me on blast and got me kicked, like basically forced me to leave the group chat. The only thing that was said was, well, you have What Fourth Wall now. Okay. I had What Fourth Wall now, and I had my friends, and we were making fun stuff. Never at any point did anyone from the DWEM side reach out to me and say, well, how about you just do the early part of the timeline and we do the later part? There was never any conversation about, well, what are you doing, so that we don't contradict you? There was nothing at all from them. And so I felt no need to tell them or keep them in the loop, because any goodwill that I had to inform them of what we were doing or keep them in the loop about what we were doing died and melted and fell into a puddle of fucking acid the minute that we were all kicked off without so much as a by your leave. So obviously I sound very bitter about that, and I am. That part of me is always going to be a little bit bitter that we were kicked off without so much as a by your leave. And I've, obviously, subsequently, I had the opportunity. There was a conversation basically around about the point that basically I was stubbornly saying, well, look, What Fourth Wall doesn't really want to do things with you guys. Where Emon was like, well, do you just want to split then? And I was like, part of me was like, is that for the best? And part of me was like, we've got this connection. Can I be asked changing these episodes? Can I be asked undoing this? So we got on a call where, to the best of my knowledge, it was Aidan and Emon talking to, I think, me. I can't remember who else from our side was on it.
George was there.
George was there.
Yes.
And I was. Now,
Connor J. Sumner was there, I remember.
Connor J. Sumner there.
I think I was at school when that was going on.
Yeah. So, for context, there had been a previous conversation. I'm going to use that term loosely. And apologies, Aidan, for bringing this up, because I will say, Aidan, if you were listening to this, for your part in this, I have pretty much mostly forgiven you because I'm aware that it wasn't really your doing. But at the time, Aidan O'Connor reached out to me separately, basically to the effect of, hey, can I still use this script that you wrote for a doctor that I still think I'm doing? And at the time, I had been knee deep in a depression because all my friends had abandoned me. And, so I was in a really bad state. And George was in a really bad state because, this was playing into a lot of his traumas. And so, frankly, I took out some of my frustrations on him when he called and was basically like, why the hell are you talking to me about this when you did this to me and I have been feeling like this because of you? And, frankly, my wife was similar. And we've said, both of us, since that as much as Aidan did wrong things and, there was some justifiable anger at him basically allowing things to happen without speaking up or doing anything about it, really the person who should have been yelled at was not him. The person who should have been the brunt of that fucking conversation was not him. So when it came to it, the conversation where Eamon was there, I was less viscerally angry, but I don't know if any recording of that conversation exists, but I know that I was less viscerally angry, but I was quite firm and clear about how I found the whole way that it had been conducted completely unacceptable. And about how, to be frank,
Hi, Frank.
Hi. But to be honest, that I was really deeply upset and hurt, and that I was happy to continue being in the same timeline, as long as there was sort of, I don't really recall the exact outcome of it, except to say, yeah, we're part of the same timeline. Now stop bothering me, effectively. Maybe it was more in depth than that, but basically I left that call basically to the effect of, fine, we're in the same timeline, just stop bothering me. Stop bothering my friends, stop bothering my team. Let's watch Fourth Wall do what Fourth Wall things. I, as a collaborator, am conscientious enough that I try not to ever lock out other people that I'm collaborating with, even if I don't like them. Like, there was nothing I was doing where I was ever going to, out of spite, lock out anything that they were doing. And I had never any intention of doing so. Because I thought that would have been a bit of a shitty thing to do, and I was trying not to be shitty for the sake of shittiness. But yeah, and the thing is, it was very strange because, it was this thing of, we've been kicked off. Ostensibly, the entire DWEM team. Like, I was told at various points, the entire DWEM team. Whoa.
Sorry, my bad.
No. So I was told at various points the entire DWEM team was on with this plan. So when, for example, after the split happened, like after What Fourth Wall was formed and we were all kicked off, after that, Fragmented was announced. And I was like, okay, but you've kicked us all off. Like, like we've all been kicked off. So really?
that was the Navy Doctor series which started, I think it came out very sporadically, but it started in May.
Yeah.
Which was just after obviously the dual channel timeline had begun.
Yeah.
Hell, if I'm not mistaken, it may have been like a week. The first episode released a week after we got kicked off the channel. Or
yes.
Yeah.
And then I think it was quite literally that Fragmented trailer came out the day that the Goblin Doctor episode was supposed to.
Yeah.
And had been scheduled to.
I remember the second episode came out in August.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was prior to the call.
I think it was, but it had been recorded previously. I think.
No, it was definitely recorded after. Fragmented 2 was definitely recorded after we were kicked off.
No, it was recorded after we were kicked off, but prior to the call between myself.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
I remember because George was quite. I don't think it's any secret to say that George was a touch ambivalent about that script and a touch ambivalent about working with DWEM after everything that had happened. I think fairly at that point. So yeah, but anyway, so that was a thing, and then now August is a very interesting time. So we'd had the conversation, Eamon, Aidan, Sumner, myself, George. We'd had that conversation. I thought we were in a relatively, like, not super happy place, but like at a place where we could get on with stuff. They could get on with stuff. We'd leave each other the fuck alone. I said I'll still score the 60th because I said I would. I'll still score 1 Second for Eternity whenever the fuck that comes out because I said I would. Whatever, basically.
Yeah.
Now, for the sake of propriety, for the sake of being nice, I can never get the right proprieties. Out of a sense of decorum, shall we say then?
Yes. Yeah.
Events happened while Eamon was in the United Kingdom,
beginning
with him sort of messaging everybody again with another of his "I'm such a shitty friend," blah blah blah. And initially, I was asked, "Can you quickly?" I don't know if I offered or if I was asked, but like, it was basically there is no trailer for the next 3 episodes of Kiwi, but they're scheduled. So I put together a super quick trailer, out of basically like ripped bits of the finished episodes.
Yeah.
And that trailer went out, and I did that because at the time I was like, I am angry at Eamon. Eamon has hurt me greatly, but he's messaged me clearly in some sort of distress. I still don't, to be honest, at this point, wish harm on him. I just wish he'd leave me the fuck alone, and he has, thank God. But like, so Eamon crashed out. We did a trailer. The trailer went out, and then subsequently events came to light. We were informed by several people that certain events had happened. That required a long conversation between What Fourth Wall's team and the DWEM people, and yourself as well, Connor, as somebody who was sort of respected, a respected party. Point.
Yeah, this is when I kind of step in from being kind of an estranged, full-on witness to actually being to run.
Part of things.
Yeah.
As a result of the conversations that were had, as a result of the things that were said, everyone decided the Kiwi Doctor's adventures should cease.
Yes.
That Eamon should be... That Eamon should not be like removed from canon, but that Eamon should be removed from baking further material. That any material existing of Eamon, like that we would use it to wrap up the Kiwi Doctor's story, and that the Kiwi Doctor would regenerate into the Venture Doctor, as played by Connor Jeff Sumner.
Yeah.
And so began the most stressful period of the 60th anniversary by a long stretch.
Yeah.
So basically, the 60th anniversary script, the Last Universe story, needed to be rewritten to remove Kiwi. And I don't remember if at the time it was my idea or if it was a more general, like, everybody consensus thing. But it was decided that since the original idea had been made before literally anybody from like What Fourth Wall had really been, so like, there were no other What Fourth Wall, like there were no other like DWEM Doctors in it apart from Venture, Blonde, and Burgundy.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of characters from other timelines as well in it, and so it didn't really feel like a DWEM / What Fourth Wall timeline thing, because the term Elysian didn't come into use, actually, ironically, until the start of the next year, but we'll get to that. So I very quickly, with the goal of not changing any existing lines, and I said this at the time in the big 60th podcast that I did on Overton Audios, I changed 2 lines to reflect the changed circumstances, which I think I'm proud that it was only 2 lines. But we extended that script greatly, and we included a bunch more characters from across the timelines. And forgive me if this sounds egotistical, but the thing that I'm most proud of is that I didn't submit to the urge to include myself. Because I've said it, I was a little bit bitter at being left out of the big 60th, because it's like, you know, I said I can be in this, and then I'm taken out of it except to appear and be bitter that I'm not in it. Felt like a bit of a slight, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I had been bitter about that. And so obviously the immediate temptation would have been, oh yeah, put Groovy in it, put Ents in it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I was not included. I was not asked to be included. And so I will not include myself. I just made the Boundless Doctor an integral part of the whole fucking thing instead. Because as I said on the 60th podcast, I may not be an egotist. I am, but I'm not that kind of egotist. I'm not that kind of egotist, but I am a simp. I am a simp.
That is true.
That is very true. I am a massive simp. But yeah, so I worked my little tush off to make that thing longer and fit more stuff in it. We worked on some prequel stuff. Like we worked on prequels for you, Iris, worked on a sort of inverse prequel.
Yeah, I mainly did the inverse prequel because of the initial asking to have Last in it. I was like, might as well have fucking Last show up in a prequel.
Mm-hmm. And then, so there was that. There was a Neon prequel.
Boundless prequel. There was also
the Magistrate Master's first proper appearance in the final episode of Groovy Volume 3, which was an absolute bitch to get out on time, because that had to come out. That had to come out on time in order to fit in with everything else that we were doing. So that came out. To sort of establish that the Anders Master, because again, I put my spouse in it because I'm a simp. The Anders Master and the Magistrate Master were also going to be present. And I'll be honest, like in an ideal world, we would have had more rewrites. We would have included more interaction, because I think there would have been a lot of mileage in having things like the Anders Master properly confronting the other Masters. You know, the Magistrate Master properly confronting the other Masters. Like, I think there would have been a lot
it was such a quick turnaround, because the script was this is the other
locked
thing as well.
and recorded.
Everyone was kind of looking, but yeah, everyone was looking to this 60th as this is it. But it was a reflection of such an old version of DWEM that it was no longer like it would have felt so out of place anyway. So those edits to include both timelines were fitting for what DWEM or the Elysian timeline in its early form was like at the time.
Yeah, so it was also a thing of... Oh, sorry.
No, you were good. It was just saying, it needed those changes to include that. Otherwise, it would have felt like something was missing.
It's also a thing of we had to step up to help get it out to the point that What Fourth Wall 60th didn't come out, Gormako 60th didn't come out, Instability 60th didn't come out. That we had to include these characters regardless.
I know I've said it before, but I am massively grateful to everyone who jumped on, because after like those massive changes had happened with DWEM, I was now suddenly having to pick up the pieces where everyone kind of because I mean, let's face it, Emon ran the channel, the DWEM channel at that point, and with him no longer making content on the channel, everything ground to a halt. It was just me having to come in and organize it, and that's when obviously I think Jed, I got initially in contact with you about it, going, "Help me, please! I've been here 5 minutes.
Yeah,
if I had a nickel,
and everybody's crying in the corner. Help me!
If I had a nickel for every time you had to come to Jed.
Well, so like I think it's safe to like the thing is. Subsequent events sort of slightly did not bear this out as well as they could have, but like I think it's safe to say that you and I probably were the only two people at that point who could have realistically pulled that shit together through a combination of your sheer organizational might and the fact that I was the kind of nutjob who would write an extra like 90 pages of this insanely long thing in a week because I'm clearly insane.
Yeah. But also, I know that I'm not entirely without my faults during that time as well, because of the insane. Well, it's like I'm sure Jed, you remember this. It was the insane deadlines of having a 40 to 45 minute audio drama come out, like 5 of them come out daily. I had everyone breathing down my neck to get it ready, and I'm like, well, the busiest person I know is currently having to score 1,000,001 things, and you're now making me the mouthpiece for the entire channel.
So I recall actually that I was quite upset because like I was deferring on so many things that I desperately wanted to achieve in order to make. And I'll be frank, I was deferring on a lot of things that I wanted to achieve for the benefit of a bunch of people who a month earlier hadn't given a shit that I existed.
Yeah.
And you know, and subsequently, a lot of them still didn't give a shit that I existed. But at that moment, I was useful to these people, and so I was like, no, I feel a little bit put upon here. I want to achieve some of the things I would like to achieve. I don't want to put them all off for your sakes. And to be fair, so you, Dom, and Aidan all stepped up to help at that point. So I will give you guys credit. You all stepped up to help get things that I wanted to get, certainly on Man at Desk, off the ground. And I bitterly regret. I do bitterly regret that that other things suffered, like that Instability's 60th suffered for it, that Gormako's 60th suffered for it, you know. And if
60th still isn't out.
You know, I'll be honest, I bitterly regret that I didn't fight harder for those things to also get help to get out the door that they could have had. I regret that. But no, so but it went out. It went out. It was fine. It was done. And it was a success. Like it wasn't viewed by a billion people, but like at a time when so much stuff was happening, you know, like the Overton 60th had gone out, you know, that had come out, I thought, quite nicely. And I'm still very proud of the score I did for that.
Lovely score.
And it was weird because like there was so much commonality in the music between the two 60ths that it almost felt to me like one massive odyssey.
Yeah.
To sort of get these things out there and to create them, and sort of score them. So I was really like weirdly happy. And then we got into 2024, and
yeah, that's where I tried to kind of like, if I don't mean to hijack the story entirely, but from where this is why I've got a lot more insight on what was going on with DWEM during this time. It was obviously it was moments. Realistically, if you there's this thing called the which people use to measure how close we are to the end of the world. You know, the doomsday clock.
Yeah.
I always sort of described it to the guys at DWEM, the original, or well, the previous version of DWEM, that were kind of you're at like 10 seconds to doomsday because none of you want to do anything, and you know, at this stage, and I felt heartbroken that all this effort had been put in, all of the obviously all of the time as well that had been put into trying to make things work between both parties. That obviously I understand that people were upset and confused with the change that had happened. So I just kind of sat everybody down and told them what to do. I said, we're going to aim to, which is why it went a bit Overton Audio's coded for the first half of that year, which went to literally weekly releases, which you'll see my name attached to every single one of them, because I had to finish off the Navy Doctor series Fragmented.
I mean,
I think it was actually the Christmas of 2023 when you and I talked briefly, Jed, about trying to put this all together and have you score it, but then that didn't work out, and it was oh god, that was a whole mess, that episode.
Didn't like everyone try to get Fragmented finish?
So Isaac was editing episode 3, and he told me he was a couple of pages away from finishing. So I said, you know what, if you want to get it out in a couple of days, just give me it. I'll finish the last 2 pages. And then he gave it to me, and he hadn't even done half. So
So, oh wow,
I had to very quickly put that together, and then
Mm.
I said, right, okay, well, go and ask Anthony for the score. Then Isaac turned around and gave him 24 to 48 hours to score it, which of course didn't work.
Yeah.
So in the end, I ended up scoring it with bits and pieces I had from previous fragmented soundtracks, which I later on, much later down the line, Jed, you and Anthony Tremin actually collaborated to make the fragmented 3 lost
Concept album.
soundtrack. Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
no.
concept album, which is
Like there's part of me that wonders if one day we'll have the Snyder cut of Fragmented 3 with the real soundtrack. No.
there's a I don't know, there might be a funny actually a funny Groovy Doctor episode in that. Trying
There
to
might
make
be.
that. Yeah.
So okay.
But
So
yeah, then the other fragmented episodes, it just basically it ended up leaning on me, Aidan, and Connor J. Sumner. And at that point, I was working a lot closely with both of them, as everyone was kind of hitting like a kind of a depression. So we went and got the episodes done. Aidan and I were trying to get episode 4 fragmented done. We were talking on Christmas Eve, and then talking in the early hours of Boxing Day. And editing and writing. We got the 2-part Dalek story in the end done in 2 weeks. And Sumner was editing part 2 while I was doing part 1, and we got it all done. And we got it all out by February, because we were trying to make use of the footage of all the live action stuff that we'd
yeah.
shot in the summer. And this was another thing as well, because I was the only one filming. The majority of the time during when Eamon was over in the summer, I was filming. So everybody else got to hang out and chill out and go and eat lunch together. And I was always filming. That I said to them, we're not cancelling this, because otherwise I've just hosted people to go and have fun while I'm going off and filming everything for everyone
No.
when you to cancel it.
And
So
I think
that's
this
when I
is
made Doctor Who Multiversal as a sequel
yeah.
to Singularity Saga.
So this is the thing as well, is there was at that point there was a bit of miscommunication as well, I think, because
Yeah.
like, you know, we weren't being told, like, what Fourth Wall wasn't being told, like, everything you guys were doing. We weren't necessarily telling you everything that we were doing. Although I was trying to keep people more in the loop at that point, because I was like,
Mm.
no, if we're doing this on the 2 channels, let's actually try a bit harder to. And there was
Yeah.
stuff that we were planning, like there was even going to be a DWEM musical, but the
Oh
thing
yeah,
is,
there was, wasn't there?
Right, yeah.
Oh.
I even wrote songs for it.
Oh. Well, yeah, we can always look to the
You know,
future.
One day.
one day.
Yeah.
But no, so the thing that I've come to understand, and obviously you know it from their side of the experience,
Yeah.
but so basically, even before you had what we will describe as a mental health break,
Yeah.
which led to you sort of, because at that point I had felt like things were getting steadily better after a rough 2020-23. So like,
Yeah.
George and I were working with you and with Lucy Smith on like making Overton Blonde Doctor stuff and working
Yeah.
on some really fun concepts for that. You know, we were obviously like we had begun the Elysian timeline, so branding existed for the Elysian timeline that was appearing on both channels.
Yes.
So you know,
Well, I mean, both channels for a single video.
And
so
we were having much more. Well, we were actually having meetings and writing down what
Yeah.
we were doing and trying to actually discuss things a bit more, which was
Yeah.
a
So
lot better.
but the thing is, there was always a Iris, I think it's safe to say that on what Fourth Wall side, there was always a sense of when, you know, is the shoe gonna drop? Is something gonna go wrong? Are these guys
Yeah.
gonna? We were ready.
never fully like, we were never
Your
fully like,
guard- your
okay,
guard
this
never
is
dropped.
gonna work out.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, how long
mean-
is this going to take before?
I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is, like, the split between DWEM and What Fourth Wall when it happened. It happened. The inciting incident was there was a cobbled together regeneration story for the Kiwi Doctor. I
Oh,
messaged
yeah.
I was slightly irritated about it, to be frank, because it's like, why are we doing a story for this guy when he's the things that he did, or that we were assuming that he had done based on the conversations that had been had,
Mm.
were such that doing more things with him seemed ill-advised anyway.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This story that got made came out in the latter half of 2024, didn't it?
No,
No.
it was like
not?
a couple days before the split.
Oh no! So
Yeah,
what
no,
happened?
I can't remember when in 2024 the split was anymore. It's all just
February.
Oh,
It was
February.
No, so
February.
what happened?
Oh,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
no, it was very early. It was very early. So it was a very quick downturn from like December to February. But what happened was, so this cobbled together regeneration story had lines from a script that I wrote and lines from George that George had performed, and neither
yeah.
of us based
Gave
on
permission.
based now bear in mind, based on the conversations that had been had around why we had all decided Emon should not be part of the channel, you know, based on those conversations,
Yeah.
neither George nor I wanted to lend that man our hand. So I was
Yeah.
quite curt with you. I fear, when I said, look, it would have been nice to have asked permission before including us in this.
Yes.
And then you very quickly went and re-edited that. You left a message basically to the effect of, stop nagging me about this because it's not really my thing. Because it shouldn't have been really your thing. You had a whole other fucking channel to run. And then I think that must have been the moment where you had your sort of mental break, because that's the moment where you messaged George and I basically to the effect of, you couldn't deal with us anymore, and you were going.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I had a couple of them. No, I'd already been. That one was just kind of. I was finding it really difficult to self-regulate emotions at that point, and there was just a natural. At that point, I know I'm not trying to like gain sympathy from it at all. There was just a natural tension in the friend group that I was in because of everything going on in the background, and because everyone at that point, and I can't speak for it now because we have genuinely at this point gone off in so many different separate directions now that some of us haven't spoken in months, several months now. But there was so much hate and anger because of everything that was going on and had gone on, and tension, that it just meant that there was no way to relax, and it just felt like I was in a job I hated. So it was almost like I was kind of trying to quit this job that I didn't have, that I felt like I was trapped in, because I was trying to make sure I was trying to make everyone happy and try and get everyone back to the way we were, so that we could try and be happy again, and it just wasn't working. No,
and I think the thing, and the thing that, so I'll be candid, the thing that frustrates me, and I don't know like what the perspective was as to why What Fourth Wall were so bad from their perspective, because I know from what I've been told subsequently that the idea of splitting from us, like, people were angry at us. People wanted to split from us.
Well, this is the thing. What
What
ended up happening was because that idea for that mishmash episode was a few people's ideas of trying to find some closure, because it meant that that particular doctor's last episode was on Overton Audios, and then they were talking about trying to get it on DWEM, and because that story was originally written by Emon, it made sense, and then Isaac had made the cover, so because to try and explain it and have a regeneration, we'd written an episode of Divergence on Overton Audios, which involved one of Emon's characters in that being hurt and like making painful noises. So people like, I was essentially on call while they said, yeah, do this, do that, do this. And it was a long discussion about whether or not to include the beginning of the Singularity minisode or not. In the end, it was said, well, we're all part of the same timeline, so it makes sense. It would help connect everything. It was completely short-sighted not to say anything about it when it came out, because naturally, I remember it came out and we got sent a screenshot from you of it going, what is this?
No, so it wasn't even that it was out. I periodically logged into DWEM to see what guys were doing because
Oh, yeah, it
I
was
was
scheduled, wasn't it?
yeah, it was scheduled, and I'd listened to it, and I was like, you've included George and I. Can you not?"
Mm.
Basically, I didn't even necessarily say, "Can you not?" I was like, it would have been
Oh, yeah,
courteous to
and
ask permission.
my entire reaction to that, it's completely something I regret because I wasn't like it was just I've well, I've for the last year or so, I've had a lot of self-reflection, and I've removed myself from those sort of spaces now to a point where I'm able to have a much clearer head and think for myself properly, and not try and be try and make it my responsibility that everyone should be happy all of the time at the expense of myself. And it was just something where I was just saying something reactionary to say, like, when you mentioned, I was like saying, "Why are you nagging me? I can't work with you anymore." It was all something that I regretted within minutes of doing it. It was just such a reactionary thing, and it was so stupid.
And the thing is, what I typed back was sort of in a sense equally reactionary, because from my perspective, it was like
we'd all had enough, hadn't we?
Well, no. 'Cause from my perspective, it was like I had deferred multiple things I wanted to achieve. Like, What Fourth Wall 60th didn't come out until the middle of that year, which I was deeply, bitterly disappointed about, because I was excited about that story.
Yeah.
And and I had personally sacrificed a great deal. And without going too much into it, like, my work had been contacted because Emon, despite the fact that, like, the last conversation I had with him had been on good terms, and I had nothing to do with the circumstances of why, he had alienated himself from the people he'd met in London. I had become the target of his ire, and my work was contacted about that, which I thought was,
it was all just getting crazy and out of hand. It was just getting
so to hear that, like, by expressing that I found something discourteous, I was impossible to work with. I was like, well, you know what? Then as before, I will go and I will go sit over here, and if you need me, I will speak to you. But otherwise, leave me the hell alone. And at that point, of course, the split happened. Which
I remember
we were
when we had that
like,
conversation.
the thing is, I know that, like, we were talking about it, and we were saying, look, we should probably split at this point, and then DWEM preempted it, and so
Well, yeah, it was something that we were discussing it all at the same time. A lot of people didn't want to. It was one of those things where the moment that the messages came through it was on a Discord server, I think. I just told everyone that we are splitting. I'll be honest. That's why it was me saying it. I just went, "Yep, we're just gonna whatever you want, you can have it. I just want this to be as clean as possible. I want it to be that everyone can be happy, and the Elysium branding will stay with What Fourth Wall. We'll go ahead and start editing via YouTube editor, editing out the idents, which I think were on the multiversal episodes at the time.
Yes.
So we just went ahead and started doing that, and it was just. And at that point, I think at that point, I handed over to Connor J. Sumner, Aidan O'Connor, and Isaac Blake to be the new management team. And I just kind of, the thing is, they still asked for my advice at times, and I was still doing tiny bits for, like, the Constellation Doctor, but I wasn't in charge anymore. I just started to step away.
And at that point, like without going too much into it, I think, Iris, would I be wrong in suggesting that we on What Fourth Wall at that point, we sensed an amount of hostility?
Yeah.
So we were basically like, okay, we're just going to do what we're doing, and we did what we did. We got the 60th out. We got all the other stuff, like, we were doing in 2024 out. We worked our little, and so the thing is, because the split happened very, very suddenly, there was no mechanism in universe for why it happened.
No, we just kind of went our separate ways, and people assumed we were still connected in some way.
Yeah, so I very, very quickly was like, well, look, there has to be a mechanism for this. We have to explain why Kiwi, Venture, all these other ones aren't canon to us anymore. And so basically, I created the character of the Groovy Valiard, or the Groove Valiard as we call him, who is basically the distaffed dark mirror to the Groovy Doctor. And so we had things like Discontent come out and Content come out, which were like episodes which were just the Groovy Valiard poking fun at the notion of canon, and like poking fun at, you know, the whole thing, and saying that he was going to break canon, and which, you know, we didn't know I didn't know too much about what we were going to do. That I had a pretty solid notion about how that was going to work out from our end. I think I had said to Connor Sumner, and I didn't realize this at the time. I think I was under the impression that the only people who held hostility really was you, based on our final interaction. So yeah. I was sort of under the impression that there was no real hostility from the rest of the individuals involved. There was just a sense of, you know, oh, I guess we're splitting now. So I was perfectly, like I said, I would have been perfectly content at that point if people had said, well, okay, how are we doing the mechanism? But of course, nobody wanted to reach out and have that conversation.
If I recall, Connor Sumner reached out to me, and I was pretty much the middleman and trying to figure out some sort of thing. But then, and they're like, oh, we're going to do this instead.
Yeah, there was plenty of ideas flying around. One of them was that they'd go, some of the Doctors would end up going back into the Singularity Saga story and rewriting the ending. That is where the split happened. From
so
continuity.
If I recall correctly, that exact concept actually. And so here's where I must admit, and apologies to any of you guys listening to this podcast, because I don't mean to offend by saying this, but I must admit that I find the ideas that were flying around a little bit insulting. I think I was idiosyncratic in how insulted I was, because I think most of what Fourth Wall's general attitude was, let DWEM do what DWEM is going to do. It doesn't have to affect us. But, you know, from my perspective, what I was doing with the Groove Valiard was saying, this stuff happened exactly the way you remember it happened, and then the Groove Valiard changed it after the fact, but it still happened.
It still maintains its importance and doesn't overwrite the meaning.
Yeah. Whereas the noises that we were hearing from what the DWEM side was planning were effectively, oh yeah, we're just going to do the Singularity story again, except we're going to take out all these guys we don't like. Which, to me, sort of negated the point. I think you've said as well, like a few people were like, no, we put a lot of hard work into that. Why are we changing it again?
Yeah, it was mainly an idea that was being led by. It was an idea that Connor J. Sumner was toying with. It was going to be part of his second series of the Venture Doctor, and Isaac was really on board with doing this, and he was going ahead and going to make new covers and everything like that. It was almost going to be like a retelling, and it was going to be in a way that both timelines would have still happened, but there's just two versions you can watch for certain continuities, of which at this point, I think what we've been, in terms of, like, you know, what we've planned since makes a lot more sense, but. Yeah, I was kind of like, the problem is I had Dominic G. Martin and Abby Louise at this point telling me, stop getting involved, stop trying to tell them no, stop trying to guide them in a better direction, because as a result I was becoming like, there was a point
the manager.
I was in essence, they were like the three people, like, I don't know, like it was a point where we said to each other earlier this year, Jed, where you were saying to me, "Oh, I thought you were still managing."
Yeah,
because your name is still on everything, and anytime anything's being said about DWEM, you're there.
Yeah,
even though they were managing it, even though they were supposed to be managing it, they weren't. And
and the thing is, I don't wish to be unkind, because, like, you know, it's not everybody's strength or forte, but like, we on What Fourth Wall, I think, would it be fair to say, Iris, we kind of noticed that DWEM didn't seem to have as coherent a strategy as we had.
Yeah, no, we thought that they were sort of aimless. They were just sort of being Overton again, essentially.
Yeah, like it was.
Yeah.
It had come to a point where rather than planning something out and like having a series come out or a whole volume come out, it got to a point where if you got an episode done, then you'd release that episode. It's to a point where it took nearly a year to get the first 4 episodes of the Venture Doctor out, and obviously with the Constellation Doctor, there was an idea behind it, but it just, with it being associated with everything else that was kind of coming out all scattered, it didn't really hit as hard as we would have liked. Which was meant to be that with the Constellation Doctor stuff, it was she's attending uni or college at Coal Hill Academy. So each episode was set during a particular period of time in the academic year, like, Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day, exams. So each episode reflected those periods of time, which is why they came out when they did, to reflect that time period. But
but like that, no, because it's difficult to notice. It's difficult to notice that there's a coherence to the scattershot when everything is scattershot.
Exactly. So as a result, and we also weren't releasing trailers for those episodes to kind of get that point across. Like when Christmas was coming up, I think that was the only episode that felt appropriate in the end, was because it was literally a Christmas special. Which of course featured the introduction of James Sutton's Moonlight Doctor, which of course I don't think we've ever seen. We only saw very briefly during the Singularity Saga setup.
Yeah. So we're now getting close to sort of the present day stuff. So now, if I recall the exact sequence of events correctly, you and I had not properly reconciled, but we'd sort of slowly reached a point where where we were being amicable enough without ever actually talking. Like you would like things, we'd occasionally exchange like comments, perhaps, but not messages really.
No.
I think what started you and I talking again was, so I'd unblocked you because it was like, no, I think I can unblock you now. Oh, no, you'd unblocked me because you'd blocked me when you had your initial breakdown. And then you'd unblocked me. And I became aware that you unblocked me, and I didn't block you because I thought, well, no, I'm not the one who blocked you. Yeah. I don't feel the need to do so. So what happened then? Also, side note, I'm so sorry, Iris. This is a lot of me talking with occasional Connor talking. Feel free to interject at any point. Look,
you're doing the story much better and much more descriptive than I ever could, so I'm just chilling.
So an incident happened where some stuff came to light that had been said that was unfortunate, that I'm not going to get into, but it had been said to the wrong person, and said wrong person had been saying it to people outside of you, basically. Which got to us talking again, and you properly apologized for your role and things, and we sort of got to talking a bit again. And we were sort of like amicable at that point. Like at that point, I would say we were amicable, but like I was in no great rush to pursue like working together or anything because, well, a lot had happened. And then, in very quick succession, Jackie, George, Lucy Smith, James York all came up to Hull to come see myself, Sage, and the Millses.
Yes.
And we filmed, which again, there's a podcast about Poignant His Grief on the Overton Audio's channel, so go listen to that if you want the full story of that. But basically, because it was the only opportunity that we thought we would ever have to do Overton Blonde meeting the philosophical doctor, we filmed the short of those two meeting. So those two met on screen. It was nice. You and I spoke. And then around about that time...
10 days later.
10 days later, give or take.
I remember the day.
You reached out to me basically saying, Yeah, so the DWEM guys have asked me to do the split stuff, and I want to work with you guys on it.
Oh, right. Okay. Maybe it wasn't 10 days.
No, no, it was.
I've skipped because
It was
10 days later.
7 days.
Yeah. 10 days later, something else happened.
Oh no, something. So yeah, you basically reached out to me and was basically like, no, I think it was actually really close to me sending the edit of Poignant Is Grief, because you were basically like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Also, I've had this sort of put in my purview. Do you want to work with me on it? And very quickly, now Iris, here's where sort of I think you might have a fair bit of input. So I got this offer basically to work on this, and it almost felt like, oh, I'd actually been complaining about DWEM doing an idea for the split that completely fucking ignored what we were doing, and it being an incoherent fucking mess.
That's why I missed
And I'll be honest. So I'm gonna get a little bit arsy here. I'm gonna say real briefly, I had been concerned about that in part because I felt like there was a power dynamic imbalance, which is to be candid, Connor. You come from, your name brings with it association with a channel that more people watch than people who watch What For For, or that's how I perceive it.
Right.
So I had a concern that if DWEM did a story about the split and it was completely different than the story we were doing about what caused the split, that people would naturally look at yours and go, "This is the real story." You know, people would look at, this is the real story, and whatever the What For For guys are saying is just them coping. You know, I was concerned about that because I wanted what we were doing to not be delegitimized. So I was worried about that, but there was nothing we could do about that because the DWEM guys weren't talking to us, and we had very little desire to engage, I think, really. And everybody else, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Iris, everybody else was kind of saying to me, look, this is not something to really worry about. Let's just make what we're making.
Yeah, we were pretty much the rest of the team were focused on, let's do the Groove Valley art stuff, do our own thing, ignore them, it's whatever.
Yeah. Because charitably, everybody else I know is much better at letting go than I am. I'm terrible at letting. You wouldn't guess that, would you, dear listeners, from me whining for 2 hours about all this shit? No, you.
I hope this is a very cathartic experience.
No, so like genuinely, it's lovely to be able to talk about this stuff in a sort of open-esque forum. So you had been sort of offered the split story. You've been given that, Connor. You reached out to me.
I will be completely honest. Given is a very loose term.
Okay.
I just took it. Because it was something that was meant to be happening in the second series of Venture. We'd been talking very minimally at that point, but we discussed how you felt about the ideas, and I just said, look, this is too far away. And at that point as well, Isaac had decided to do another series of Navy where he was going to do the split, and he wasn't talking to Sumner. So they were all
what the hell?
Yeah, I know they were all trying to do the split at the same time. So I just said,
I've never heard this. So,
I did.
I've not mentioned that before. Oh, okay. Well,
you've not mentioned. I don't think you mentioned that Isaac Blake was specifically going to address the split himself.
Yeah, he was doing something with the Navy doctor and like a big storyline with the character, and it was going to link to how he was going to split things instead. That's obviously not happening now. I essentially just said, no, because you're all contradicting yourselves now. Let me just sort it. I'll chat to you about what's going on. And so I just said, look, I can get it done. You guys concentrate on your own series. And then we'd already talked at this point about how you felt. Yeah. So my first port of call was messaging you and just going, right, I'm in control of it now. What's your idea?
Yeah,
so what's your idea, and how can we make this work cross-channel?
And so this is the thing, right? So I don't think necessarily I don't think we initially understood that because my initial impression, I must admit, was that you'd been given control of writing the story that they wanted to do, rather than anything else. And so I was a bit
No,
like,
it was at that point where I just thought that I'm obviously playing a role here at DWEM. I might as well
well, yeah,
do it.
yeah. But like this is the thing though. So like initially when I turned around and said to everybody, Connor Chadwick wants to do the split with us. Like he wants to work with us. Everybody was like, yeah, but all the ideas that you've been told are kind of shit. You don't like them, Jed. None of us really like them, Jed. This is the thing that we've been telling you, that we don't like them, Jed.
And then you're just like, well, no. He wants to do our idea.
No.
We were fucking flabbergasted.
Yeah. No, we were full on Matt Smith. I'm waving my fingers about flabbergasted because it's like, oh, okay. This is not on my bingo card. This is not on my bingo card at all. Like getting to do so like almost immediately I was like, well, okay, so this is the Groovy. He has these things called parody engines. He's going to break the timeline. And then you were like, okay, cool. And we sort of like very quickly put together like the Tales of the Valiard app, where the Groovy just comes in and is like, yeah, fuck this.
around that time, because we sat down and we've planned out a couple of other like short stories and minisodes that will link into the overall story that we're planning to do the split. But around
that has kind of ballooned.
Around that time, I think mere days after we'd start planning that, something happened.
Something.
So I'm gonna quickly tell that story of the something happening.
Okay.
So there had been lots of issues with people that we all know within the fandom regarding a particular individual who was part of the management team, and it wasn't to the same effect as what was going on or what had gone on with Emon, but it was certainly an effect that was not giving anyone. It was again almost like history repeating itself. It was what was being coined by the then management team as brand protection. Which is, I don't know, the less I comment about that term, the better. But like, they wanted to protect the brand of DWEM, and because one of the people in that management team were doing something that was obviously being talked about in larger circles, and it was essentially stealing commissions. Commissions were paid for and not being fulfilled. And promises were made to fix that and then weren't being fulfilled. So it was becoming this larger than life thing, to a point where they wanted to have a management call, but they asked me to be there to help mediate it because I'm apparently good at that. I said no because I'm not the management team. And at that point, I was like, I'm trying to do the split. I'm also trying to put a line in the sand here and say that, no, you guys have got to fix this. And then 20 minutes later, DWEM died. Genuinely, the meeting never happened. They just didn't do the meeting. They just shut DWEM down.
Context podcast users, we're technically doing a podcast for a corpse right now.
Yeah.
Oh no, so like contextually, so like
I was sat there. I was sat there in complete shock. I was just going, "What on earth happened?"
Wait,
it was 20 minutes.
I told you guys. It was basically like I told you guys to go and do a management call.
Yeah.
And instead, you all fucking quit.
No, genuinely, they were all trying to sort out a meeting for the next half an hour, but 20 minutes into that half an hour, it just shut down. I was then talking with those two people who were trying to talk with this other person, just left. And then Instagram videos and everything went out without any weight or organization. Going, we're out, we're gone, and then in the end, everyone logged out except me. Like logged out of the channel, and I realized I now have the channel again. Why does this keep happening? And then I don't know if you remember. Do you remember when I just messaged you going, "Can we have a call quickly?" I think, Jed, that we both might be managing DWEM now.
Yes. So I don't mind admitting, in another example of my being petty, that my overriding feeling, to a certain extent, was to quote Thanos. You could not live with your own failures.
Yeah.
Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Yeah, so that all happened in May. So anything that's come out afterwards has been essentially me trying to close like things out with existing doctors who didn't leave. People at this stage, Moonlight and Constellation are moving to a new channel. That is happening in the new. I think. Well, this is meant to be coming out in the new year. That will become clear. Venture has obviously already been re-uploaded onto the grown-ups table. An interesting channel name. And the Navy Doctor is just kind of in a bit of a limbo at the moment. Although lots of teasers have been put out there. And I'm trying to think of all the other doctors. Aidan has already set up a separate channel and already started putting out new content with Burgundy. Essentially, everyone has moved away, but we are going to be closing those stories out with those doctors, their DWEM counterparts. We are still going to do that, and they have agreed to do that. But they are just starting up their new stuff in the meantime, which is their choice, nothing to do with me. But my God. My God.
So the initial plan was, well, okay, we will do a split trilogy, and the split trilogy will be the Groovy splits. So because at that point the Techno Doctor, like Rassilon Productions, had decided that he didn't want the Techno Doctor to be on either timeline, because he and Josh Griggs as the eccentric Doctor had sort of both decided to remain on both timelines. That caused, shall we say, a little bit of tension. Like, my attitude was, I don't care if you're on both timelines. I just want to know how you explain it. So there were conversations around that. So for eccentric, it was relatively straightforward, but there was enough tension that Rassilon P basically thought, no, you know what, Techno is not in either.
I believe he had enough at that point. Yeah,
I believe he still intended to be in the split trilogy proper. So
yes, he is.
Initially, the plan was, this is the split trilogy. It's going to have a couple of doctors from DWEM, a couple of doctors from What Fourth Wall. It's going to have the Groovy as the main villain. We're going to go back to certain places. We're going to explore some different things, and it's going to end with. And look, this is a bit spoilery, but it was going to end initially with Techno does a thing. Techno is zapped off to a completely separate timeline.
Yes,
DWEM is one side. What Fourth Wall is the other side.
That was the original.
Again. That was the original plan.
Techno is the divorce lawyer.
That was pre-death.
Yeah, and the thing is, we
pre 10 days.
We planned that. Bits of script were written, and then really, really quickly it became clear that no, what's actually going to happen is DWEM is fucking gone. Like, everything that made DWEM what it is, like Emon had come back for a brief period, because as it turns out, my understanding is a considerable amount of the things that had happened didn't happen quite the way didn't quite happen the way that it was explained to us, and suddenly and see, here's the thing that was a point of separate contention, that obviously from What Fourth Wall's perspective, we were never told that the things unhappened.
No,
so it just looked like so it just kind of looked like all you guys were working with a guy and these things had happened, and it was like, oh, okay, which obviously was not a great look. It's become clear since then that obviously,
I believe if I remember correctly, that when there were I call it the great title cards of Instagram. There was like one that was done like black text on white background where I can't remember who wrote it now, but someone had written something going, we got the dates wrong as to when splits happened. And then simultaneously went, as a result of that, Kiwi's coming back. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
I didn't even read that.
Oh no, yeah. So if I think is it still on the Instagram? It is. It is.
Oh God.
So that came out August 20th. Last summer, no it wasn't, the Doctor Who Expansive Multiverse parted ways with What Fourth Wall and the Elysian timeline. Since then, we've continued to push forward with audio dramas set within our own key timeline. We're still hard at work with Venture, Constellation, Navy. In addition, we will continue to develop our stories, including the completion of the first season of the Kiwi Doctor Adventures. And then, because I don't like... And see, here's the thing.
I remember your response. I chuckled.
So I will be completely candid with everybody out there. I don't really like it when people speak on my behalf, because I will be honest, it gets my goat a little bit when people think that they can say, oh yes, this totally happened the way that we've said it happened. So I put out on What Fourth Wall a clarification from What Fourth Wall Productions in February 2024. The members of DWEM split from the Elysian universe. Prior to this, they existed in the same timeline. Following the formation of What Fourth Wall in May, it was February when circumstances led to the two channels finally parting ways shortly after the debut of the Elysian branding. We presume the event referred to in the press release just gone is the removal of members from the DWEM team who would later form the core of the What Fourth Wall production team. These were two separate events. My understanding is that some people were a little bit peeved that I corrected them.
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's not really news.
Yeah. Oh God, no. But no. So But yeah. So that was a bit of a tangent. Point is. So it went from the split is going to be, this nice clean, like, these guys here, to there is no DWEM. Everything. So
Yeah,
like Emon came back, and then even Emon fucking left, to go do whatever.
I don't even remember what happened with that in the end.
I mean, was it?
There was one episode of Tales of the Valiard, and then one short trip.
Mm-hmm.
Two short trips, actually. There was a Christmas special and a Halloween special.
Right. Okay. So nothing about series 1. I think the 10th episode. I'd edited the 10th episode about a year prior to its release. Because I found myself having all of the lines, so I decided to edit it as I'm a bit of a completionist like that. And I'd sent it to the management team. I went, "You do what you want." And they didn't put it out there. They did. It ended up on Emon's channel, and only Emon's channel, really.
Which is interesting because it's still DWEM branded, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it never got. And I think at that point when it went out, I think it was just us when it went out. In the end, it would not have come out. It would not have even had the opportunity to come out because we would have had to have talked about it, and we both would be like, no, anyway. I just thought at some point we got to let this go and just focus on where we're going.
So basically, because the way that the Groovaliard works, to sort of tangent a little bit, I promise this will make sense to listeners. The way that the Groovaliard works is the Groovaliard is a plot device to make. Who's buzzing?
Sorry, my Discord on my computer decided to go off, so it all went onto my phone, all the notifications I missed while we were recording.
That happens with my phone as well.
So, the Groovaliard is a plot device that exists primarily to kill the connection between DWEM and What Fourth Wall.
Yes.
He exists like extra diegetically. That's all he exists to do. Like it's even sort of joked. He has no backstory. He has no history. He spontaneously appeared during the time of the Singularity Saga. That's why when he first appears, it's in the episode content, and it's in the episode where he's on the planet of the last universe with Groovy, at Anders' TARDIS, and he's basically just spontaneously generated because the split spontaneously generated, and because he is now the mechanism by which that will occur. So I love the idea of playing both extra diegetically and diegetically with the idea that, okay, the timeline died. So the timeline died. So now what we have is a story wherein basically the Groovaliard has destroyed the DWEM timeline as it was.
And that's occurred at the end of Volume 2 of Tales of the Valley, which came out in August or July, I believe.
Yep.
And then of course we followed up with a quick, because I was meant to do it a lot earlier in August, but I very quickly made something for the anniversary of Doctor Who back in November to quickly just tell everyone, hey, that thing that you heard happened.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. This place is still very dead.
Yeah.
So by the time anyone's listening to this podcast, the following will have occurred. There should have been, hopefully, 2 Tales of the Valiard episodes.
Yeah.
Which now feature the Groove Valiard as the primary Valiard because the original one is fucking dead.
Oh, we never we never even went into the history of Tales of the Valiard series and how chaotic that was.
I mean, suffice it to say,
this was an abridged version of events.
No, it was the 60th. It was a 60th anniversary story that stopped early.
It stopped early because the Groove Valiard fucking killed him. Bless his little heart. So,
well, no, we actually got to the finale. It was meant to be an 8 episode series that I then split into volumes because after episode 4, nobody ever did anything again. So I was like, oh, all right, then I guess we'll pick it up.
Helpful. But yeah, so the Groove Valiard will have taken up the mantle of the Valiard of Tales of the Valiard, whilst simultaneously still being like the Valiard of Watforth Wall and doing episodes of the Valiard on Watforth Wall. I hope. I'm hoping to get at least one out.
What do you mean? You hope? Hope he can show up.
He can. I mean, I'm not being funny. The bastard doesn't listen to me half the time. Do you think just because I created him that he listens to my ass? There's a reason he's sticking his finger up in all those promo photos. But no. So
I wonder where that sentence was going.
Yeah. This is still a family channel, Jed.
Yes.
Is it really? But yeah,
no, fuck that.
So, and it's interesting because out of the notion of DWEM, the actual universe of DWEM dying, have come a few different really key concepts. And I think the first one that's really interesting to me is the one that's kind of defined the direction that the death of DWEM, the slow, agonizing death of DWEM is taking, is the Forlorn Doctor.
Yeah.
So Iris, now let's talk, Iris, about how Forlorn came to be.
Okay. So Forlorn started by Jed, me and Jed in a call, and Jed pitching an idea. As he does.
Yeah. So like the basic idea that I sort of had was we suddenly had a complete lack of doctors to make intervening content, between one moment and another. We had a lack of doctors on DWEM to make content with, which kind of scuppered the idea of like leading into the split properly a little.
Yeah. Can't exactly do a split when all the doctors are gone.
Yeah, and I was of the opinion that it would be good to actually like have something to put out there and have something to explore. And without wishing to spoil too much, because obviously it's not my story, the basic concept of the last and inverse doctors and their connection is that they are 2 halves of a whole, representing 2 different extremes of the Doctor's personality. You have the inverse Doctor, who is all about logic and rationality. You have the last Doctor, who is all about emotion, instinct, and intuition. And so what I pitched to Iris was, for the dying DWEM universe, what's left after you take all those things out of the Doctor, apart from simply the determination to be the Doctor, however you physically can. So it's not that the Forlorn Doctor isn't intelligent and logical or has no emotion. It's just those
as we see in the Christmas special, those aspects are still this is coming out after the Christmas special, so I can talk openly. Yeah. Those aspects are still in them through the voices of Last, Inverse, and Clever.
Yeah, but like all of it's dialed down to a point where you have a very numb incarnation for a very dead timeline, and that in and of itself is fascinating to explore. That kind of analog horror. This timeline is dead.
This place is abandoned. How am I going to fix this? Is this even worth fixing?
Yeah, like it's an in-universe exploration of what the exterior, like the extra diegetic the metafictional aspects. It's fascinating. And in fact, I think we could probably get away here with playing a quick clip of the Christmas special, just to sort of illustrate that a little, in case any of you haven't watched it yet, you Philistines. So yeah, have a clip.
Is this smells like it. Could you pass me my Sonic? Thank you. Thank you.
So that's what Forlorn's entire vibe is meant to be. The entire vibe of Forlorn is meant to be this sort of analog horror. I mean, to be honest as well, I wasn't really the one who said analog horror. I don't think. I think that was all you, Iris, because you have quite a strong interest in that notion.
If I'm not doing Doctor Who, I am doing pretty much glitchy horror stuff, and I've even you can see in my early fan films that I started using glitch effects when the TARDIS was materializing, because I had the notion of, if things aren't really supposed to exist in the real world, then they would sort of glitch through reality. And so taking this up to extreme with a dead timeline, analog horror seemed like the logical way to go. And considering around the time episode 0 was going on, I found a really cool new tool to do VHS effects. So I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I get to play around with this in a Doctor Who setting. So this has been Forlorn has been genuinely really fun to figure out vibes wise.
Which is good. I think, and the thing is, just because the timeline is dying, just because all these big timeline wibbly wobbly multiversey fucky things are going on, doesn't mean that we can't I think it's interesting to explore that. And ironically, I understand why it happened, but I think it's good to be giving DWEM its own visual identity again, instead of it just feeling like an extension of Overton. Because that is something that we kind of... I know it's inevitable because everybody wants to use your cover template, Connor, but
I don't know who's got that and who hasn't anymore.
You did just give that template to me yesterday.
Yeah, beautiful.
But that's for completely different reasons.
Oh yeah, but it's like I see that Vocalabs are now using the one with the cast list on.
Really?
That we use. Yeah. They've been using it for their 13th Doctor adventures. And I'm like, where did that? How was it made there? Dan made that for me 3 years, nearly 4 years ago, for when we rebranded Overton Audios. And how has it ended up in it was like something we were saying a long time ago, Jed, which was you keep seeing it everywhere. You're like,
it was a slight. It was a slight.
What Fourth Wall, the only ones who have their own unique casting list. Everybody else is using this one, it seems.
It was very funny to actually get the DWEM cast list thing for the first time and seeing the layer of the Overton Audios logo just hidden. It's not even deleted off the Photoshop file; it's just hidden there.
Yeah, that's the version I've got because I ended up making that. I ended up making that for DWEM in the end because I think during the very early days of DWEM they were having their I think Kiwi had their own version.
Like in the early days of DWEM, everybody was sort of making So I made blonde covers and groovy covers and goblin covers based loosely on what Amon had done, but Emon's style was distinct from Overton's in terms of like fonts and layout choices. So yeah, kudos for that. I guess it wasn't just a carbon copy of Overton. But this is it. So Forlorn, being analog horror, brings its own sense of unique visual identity.
Definitely.
That series is going to have, and the thing is that visual identity, has spilled out. So like, I think it was it me who encouraged you, Connor, for the Defiant release that went out in November to sort of be
we sat down and I was saying I was gonna, that I told you the whole story and everything about what was gonna happen. Division explodes. The TARDIS is like at the heart of it, gets thrown out. You suggested that when the explosion happens, we should cut to black and almost restart the episode.
Mm-hmm.
That was the death of DWEM. We are now here, and this is and then afterwards you suggested getting the cameos from the Constellation Doctor and Venture Doctor, which that represented them either splitting off or being directly affected by the event itself, which of course is something we're going to be actually explaining in later that come out.
Absolutely. I think so. To sort of jump ahead a little bit, these are obviously like the next few of these podcasts are not going to be nearly this long because I won't have to info dump 4 years of fucking history on it.
What do you mean? You're not going to explain the DWEM situation every single episode?
No.
I could, Iris.
Don't.
No,
it's just a big previously at the beginning.
Just like,
previously the entire previous episode.
Previously on DWEM.
So obviously, like, there's some stuff that we will discuss in future podcast releases. I think I quite like the idea of quarterly. Quarterly feels right. But so Defiant, I think Defiant is having two or three more episodes. That sort of, are you gonna keep up with this?
At the moment, I've got a rough plan for a 6-part series. So we've done the first 2 now. I've got rough plans for the third one, and I know that roughly the end one will, because there's already a playlist on the channel already, and linking to a separate thing called EM26, which will be after we're finished. That will be related to like it will be more like an epilogue to EM23 because Defiant basically represents what was now. He's unaffected by what's happened, but he's now having to be the witness as like the previous audience in a way. He's kind of like the eyes of the people who watched before, watching everything fall apart and trying to make sense of it. But I don't think anyone. That's what I'm quite liking is that we've got Forlorn who's right in the middle of it and surrounded by it. And meanwhile, you've got Defiant, who's very much the outsider in it, and going, "Well, hang on, I'm not affected by this at all, and I'm watching everything else break." And it allows for 2 very different perspectives on this particular event, and obviously the stylized choice as well, because we have done a couple of VHS glitchy kind of things already with specifically flashbacks and obviously the actual division explosion itself. But I know that I've talked about doing a couple of little Defiant Doctor live actions that would be in a very similar style to what you've done, Iris, with Forlorn. I was having this idea of doing POV shots where they're different, because if you're looking through Defiant's eyes, they wouldn't be the way that they've looked for Forlorn. And if you're looking at it from a different perspective, I'll talk about it later. But like,
we probably shouldn't turn this podcast into a production meeting.
Yeah, probably not.
No. Yeah. With all due respect, listeners, you're not the management team. We are. Yeah, love y'all.
Spoiler alert: we're the management team.
Totally.
I don't think we've ever exactly established that.
All right, let's get the Instagram post ready.
Yeah, no,
you joke. I nearly did at one point.
Okay, Iris, Iris, darling, do it. It would be so great. But
I'll
no,
do it after this.
Yeah, but no. So one thing that we are working on as well. Is obviously Groovaliard is going to continue doing Tales of the Valiard. We have the Forlorn Doctor. We have Defiant sort of wrapping things up. I'm not going to talk about everything, but the last thing that I'm going to talk about in any depth is going to be EM23 Groovy.
Okay.
Ooh.
So that's the last thing that I'd like us to sort of talk about before we wrap up. So before we do anything else with that, let's listen to the trailer.
Coming soon from DWEM. You are an enemy. One path or another.
Name's Anders.
This was, of course, a facade.
But is the Doctor enough?
Hello? There's meant to be a first story here with, like, cameo voices from other Doctors in the timeline and stuff. No one? Did I show up too early or something?
Doctor Who, The Groovy Doctor, Volume 1. Coming 28th of January 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
Ooh.
Very.
Yeah, no. It's hilarious going like that because I haven't finished it. I'm in the past. This is wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yeah,
So
for context, this is December 3rd for us right now.
Yeah, so you guys are hearing something that doesn't exist yet. That which lies ahead does not yet exist. But yeah, so the big thing for me with EM23 Groovy is
They're secretly the Ronnie.
yeah, no, totally.
They always are.
Fucking Ronnie. So much for the two Ronnies. But no, so in a way, it feels like coming full circle, bringing a version of the Groovy Doctor back to kill DWEM. You know, it feels like full circle. And what we're exploring with EM23 Groovy, as you can sort of tell, is like more again of that kind of the glitchiness and the universe falling apart and the nature of it. And because EM23 Groovy is still the Groovy Doctor and he can still break the fourth wall, there is very much that sense of there's meant to be a story here. What the bloody hell's going on? You know, and we get to explore it. We're really exploring it from three completely different, like, separate horror perspectives. One of which is right in the center of it. Like, that is all Forlorn knows. One of which is outside but still in universe, which is Defiant, which is, you know, like, this makes no sense, but still trapped within that in-universe perspective. And one is very much like a heroic perspective, but a heroic fourth wall breaking perspective of there is meant to be a story here. There is meant to be a canon happening here. There is meant to be a timeline here. And instead, there are broken bits of story that aren't happening the way that they're supposed to happen. Yeah. And what the hell is going on? And that really excited me to sort of explore and play around with, because, I mean, honestly, like the Groovy Doctor's most interesting moments in a lot of ways have been when the Groovy Doctor has looked at the narrative and looked at the formula and the way that things have played out. And Groovy has basically sort of turned around and gone, the hell is all this about? And so we're getting to do that, but now from the perspective of dumping that character into a situation where everything's fucked. So he gets to turn around and go, the hell is all this about? And in a very different kind of way. And honestly, I haven't entirely decided yet whether there'll be 1 or 2 volumes of him. I think probably 2. Yeah. But EM23 Groovy's story, I think, is, along with Forlorn and Defiance, like a really integral part of how we show what killing a timeline actually looks like. And I think that, like, in a way, like I'm almost like I don't. And guys, listening to this, I hope you realize I'm not saying this in a mean way when I say this, but I'm actually kind of grateful that you all left. No, like I'm in the sense, no, okay, no, and before you guys pitchfork me to death, get in line. But also before you guys pitchfork me to death, I mean the story that we were gonna tell, which was just here's the split, and then here's the DWEM doctors, here's the What Fourth Wall doctors. That was fine, but we're telling a story now that is about okay, but like we're killing a timeline. That timeline is dying. We get to explore what the fuck does a dying timeline look like? What the hell does that feel like to be in the middle of? It's got so much more now. Ironically, killing DWEM has given DWEM so much more unique narrative potential than just here's a bunch of Doctors Who doing Doctors Who things effectively.
Plus, we all, when we signed on to this, all we really had to do when we learned that it was dying was just do the trilogy and that, but that's not narratively fulfilling.
Yeah, well, that's what we initially looked at doing the split trilogy. Then we had some ideas for doing some minisodes, which would explain how the DWEM Doctors got there.
How they got there,
and then it's just kind of slowly expanded to me to obviously I was thinking I should probably do something with Defiant at some point. And it all just kind of we just kept having ideas for, well, this is what we could do with this. We could do this with
who would have thought that who would have thought that killing DWEM could have given so much people more joy to do DWEM.
I think I'm not going to comment on that because I probably get pitchforked even more. I mean the thing is though as well is that like unironically, I spent the vast majority of the time that we've been talking about this basically talking about how, like, realistically, this is the existence of DWEM and the circumstances surrounding DWEM and, like, how I was removed from DWEM. It's all been very hurtful, actually. It's not been a fun experience. And it wasn't meant to be that way. You know, we all started DWEM with a sense of, let's actually do something that is just fun. And I think it didn't turn out that way, and I don't think even the most charitable interpretation that anyone, you know, outside of the three of us could have of it, could look at it and go, yeah, no, it turned out fine, because it didn't. You know, it was a lovely idea, but like weirdly, it came out better in other places. Like What Fourth Wall ended up doing a lot of what DWEM was supposed to do, but in order to exist first.
And also, it's been very clear as well that since obviously I'm what's left of what was, but everybody else who have moved on have been happier and freer as well. They've been doing their own stuff without having to. Like one of the things I said to Aidan a little while ago was, I'm so happy that I don't know what's happening in your stuff anymore. Because we always knew because of the timeline and trying to do continuity, so there was no surprises. So when, for example, Aidan's Krampus teasers have come out, I'm really excited because I have no idea what's going on with that, and it's been really exciting and nice to be able to see people's friends' projects, and not always be in the know. And that's been a really nice bonus of actually the split as well. I think it has been for the best for every possible. Or everyone possible, really. It's enabled us to do new content and, you know, have an identity, while everybody else has been able to have their own freedoms again and not be tied down by the past.
No, it's not, and I think what's really great about it as well is that, you know, like, you know, from that cathartic thing of it's nice to come back and actually go, all right, this is where something started, this is where it will end. You know, we get to finish what we started a long time ago. You know,
that's another thing as well. Like, I think it was really lovely when you mentioned doing EM23 Groovy. I said it's almost like we're trying to do what we wanted to do, and that will help give us all closure and finally close that book as well. Do the split. What Fourth Wall continues happily, and DWEM will become something else, I imagine.
Well, no, like this is it. Like you know, whatever happens to DWEM after we're done with this split stuff is in a way out of our hands, and I'm grateful for that because I don't want to be in charge of that. That's not my place.
No.
I don't need it. Once we've done
No.
telling this story, it's done.
Yeah.
And you know, this,
and
like
we've
this,
had
this
our,
story,
we've had our piece with it as well.
yeah.
We've
And
got our
the thing is-
catharsis. We've got our ending. We can go home.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think to wrap up, because you know, from our perspective, it's quite late in the evening now for us here in the UK.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, I think, and we'll explore this more when we sort of discuss the events of, like, properly discuss the events of like the Forlorn Christmas special and the Valiard episodes that you, audience, will have just listened to, and like the EM23 episodes that will have gone out by the time we get to the next podcast. We'll discuss those in the next podcast, I think, and we'll discuss some of the implications of those because that's interesting, and I think that will really push what the split stuff is doing. And obviously, there's a lot more than what we've discussed happening with the split and the stories leading into the split, because obviously, you know, the initial split trilogy, that story, the story of how does What Fourth Wall and DWEM split, that the core elements of that are still happening. There is still going to be a big story, you know, that formally splits those two timelines forever.
Yes.
And we have already begun to see the ripples. We have already begun to see everything. So I think, and I don't know if my mic's just gone weird because one of my headphones just died. I think it'll be really interesting.
You're doing good audio wise.
I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that for what actually happens next, and we'll leave that for the next podcast in a few months. So, tell you what, it's been lovely ranting at you, audience, and I promise next time I talk for hours, it'll be about something other than all of my deepest, darkest traumas. To all of you guys who I have, like, obviously, to all of the people who have been mentioned, I'll say this: what I have described is my account of the past. You might have seen it differently at the time. I try not to hold grudges. You know, I don't want to hold grudges, but I have to be honest, and part of what this podcast has done is we have talked about how did we get here, and how we got here was through a lot of the events that I have relayed as best I can. And Connor has been very kind and considerate in sitting there, basically listening to me sort of indirectly, like, bring up all the shit that happened, some of which, you know, is kind of inadvertently laid at his feet, rightly or wrongly. You know, you've been very kind, Connor, in sort of letting us talk about this, and I'm very grateful as well for you illuminating the side of it that we didn't get to see. I'm very grateful for that. If you know, I don't want anyone to think that I'm still holding on to, like, being angry about stuff, because, like, part of me is still a little bitter about some things, which I think I might always be, but that's partly why I came back to DWEM, so that I could close the book here and finish that. And I want to move forward and kind of be like, yeah, no, it's over. It's over now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I want to leave off on. And also, like, you know, my gratitude to people for, you know, wanting to come back, agreeing to come back and help us close this chapter out. And, you know, if there are people who, having listened to me talk about all this, want to reach out and go, may have fucked up a little. Like, I've talked to a couple of people already about that a little bit, but, you know, I am here. So, you know, I don't mind. I don't bite. So come have a chat. But also, like, I'd like to extend my deepest and most sincerest thanks to Connor and Iris for sort of this podcast and joining and having the opportunity to sit and talk for a bit about how it's all started and where it's all going next. And yeah, so yeah, I don't know if you guys want to leave out with any final words.
Make sure to buy our analog horror flavored coffee. Follow us on Patreon.
We're gonna get axed.
Is it just coffee with a load of salt in it?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
it'll taste like absolute shit, and it'll get us, it will get us sued because we're running it under Doctor Who. But
it's like that Matrix thing where sugar tastes like salt and salt tastes like sugar.
Exactly.
Oh no!
Everything's inverse.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say. It was nice being on here, even if I didn't get to say much. I promise I'll get to say more next time.
I mean, you better. We're going to talk more about Forlorn and Klaus von Santo next time, motherfucker.
Okay.
But it was definitely good to have this podcast because it's something that I've always wondered if there would ever be something where we'd ever sit down and talk about it. It's something that's been so, I think, more people know about what happened than we actually realize at times, because it wasn't exactly like some of the personalities who were on and involved in the channel were ever that quiet about it. But
it's been like an open.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been like an open
we've
secret.
done it though. It's nice to have
Yeah.
sit down and talk about it and almost say this is the definitive time we're talking about it. Let's move forward and be positive.
And also, like, I think what's nice about it is, like, we've talked about it. We've been, like, reasonably calm about it. Nobody's been shouty or angry or accusatory. And, you know, like, it happened. We've been open about it now. Like everybody who looked at the What Fourth Wall, like, existence of What Fourth Wall and the fact that it's completely separate from DWEM, everybody looking at that can now sort of look at it and go, okay, that makes sense, actually, now why that happened. So, you know, transparency. I like transparency. I believe in transparency in fan media. But I also believe in making fucking fun content. So, you know, next time you guys hear us talking on a podcast like this, it'll be because we've made fucking fun content. And we're going to talk about all the fucking fun content. Yeah, baby! So, love you all, dear listeners out there in YouTube radio land. And as a final parting thought, I will be coming back, and I'll be bringing my new toys with me.
Jed, the line was, "I'll be back."
No.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.